better.
Hello.
I
you see
better go.
properly?
I better go to invite you stand up
Okay, you want to do that?
because
Yes. I feel
I
like
am.
don't mind the big bulging computer. Can you put this in
I
your
haven't
background, please?
started yet, dear. Take your time, dear. But the chance you're waiting on a signal. So
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Youth Town Hall of the Parliamentary Reform Commission. My name is William Chandler. I'm going to be the chairman today. The chairman of the commission is Sir Richard Cheltenham. The deputy chairman of the commission is Sir Roy Trotman. The other members of the commission are Her Excellency Ambassador H. Elizabeth Thompson, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ms. Maxine McLean, Dr. Richard Ishmael, world-renowned cardiologist, and happy belated Heart Day to everyone. And to my left, Mr. Corey Beckles, attorney at law. On our panel today, we have Ms. Tia Adena Bell Oli, Barbadian Olympian, Ms. Nyanji Bradshaw, sixth form student of the Lodge School, Mr. Tahir Bulbulia, youth advocate, and a recent member of the panel for Down to Brass Tacks, some of our favorite radio programs. Mr. Dante Harvey, member of the Youth Parliament of Barbados, and Ms. Shaquani Hunt, student of the Barbados Community College, and someone I've heard on the radio a few times, and I really appreciate her contributions. Before we start today, the chairman of the commission would like to make a few words.
Mr. Chairman, fellow Commissioner William Chandler Jr., other members of the Parliamentary Reform Commission, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good morning. For me, it is always a delight to be able to address young people. I've had a long career in public life. I joined the Barbados Labour Party when I was 16, and I used to attend debates of the House of Assembly as a teenager. I first ran for political office when I was months short of age 29. And my experience teaches me that youth is not a barrier to public service. Tomorrow belongs to you, the young people of this country. The issues of today are the ones you will inherit. You must reach out enthusiastically to receive the baton which will be passed to you shortly. And I'm happy to see those of you who have turned up today ready to start your contribution to our public life. I grew up in the colonial era and was an adult when we moved towards an independent monarchy in 1966. That is the year we severed ties with the British government, but retained the Queen. It meant that the Governor-General was the Queen's representative and was appointed by her. It also meant that judges and parliamentarians, when taking the oath of office, swore allegiance to the Queen. But your generation will grow up as the new Republican generation. And what does that mean? It means that Barbados no longer has a monarch. Our head of state is the president, and she was elected by the Barbados Parliament. Our oath of office will require judges and parliamentarians to swear allegiance to Barbados only. And this is a convenient moment for us to review our parliamentary system, hence the establishment of the Parliamentary Reform Commission, which I have the honor to chair. Permit me to explain what Parliament does and what it is. Parliament's biggest responsibilities are to approve the budget and public spending and to make laws. We have two chambers. The lower one is called the House of Assembly, and the upper chamber, as it were, is the Senate. The government introduced bills in the lower house, that is the House of Assembly. They are debated there, and once they are passed, they go to the Senate. If the bill passes in both houses, it is signed into law by the President. Now, Republican status has prompted us to review our entire system of government and the Constitution and ask ourselves what needs to be kept, what needs to be changed, and what needs to be modified. The Parliamentary Reform Commission will be asking itself certain questions on which we would like your input, you the young people. And some of these questions include, should we have two houses of Parliament going forward, or only one? Should we lower the age for being elected to Parliament? Right now, you can vote at 18, but must be 21 years old to serve in the House or Senate. Should we include the youth as an interest group to be represented in the Senate? These are just a few of the many questions which fall to be determined by the Parliamentary Reform Commission at this stage. And with these brief remarks, just let me say that I look forward to hearing the contribution of the young people. Get ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now for today's panel. First of all, let me say that everyone can relax, say what you want to say, have a good time, and just share your views, right? So the first panelist is Ms. Shaquani Hunt, student of the Barbados Community College. I asked her to open the batting today because we all know how well-spoken she is and the views that she has been able to say already on the radio. She is no stranger to public life, and we're looking forward to hearing her now.
Thank you very much. When I was asked to sit on this panel, one of the things I did was talk to other young people. And when I said I talked to them, like I really just had a conversation. I didn't ask them anything about what they would want or what they would do if they were asked to be a panelist. I asked what they want for their future, what they want to see. One of the things that a lot of them identified was at 18 years old, we are asked to vote. We are considered old enough to vote. We are considered that we are in sound mind, that we understand why we're voting and what is the purpose and the goals of voting. Persons come around into the communities, they canvass, they tell us their goals, their plans for the future, how they plan to impact our lives, how they plan to impact the future of Barbados. Basically, they're selling themselves to us. And based on that conversation with us, we then consider who to vote for or how to go forward. After the voting is completed and then the ministers are selected, we are then told we are too young. We're too young to impact policy. We're too young to ask questions. We're too young to make decisions that could impact the rest of our lives. But if we think back to when we were asked for the vote, we weren't too young at that point in time. The reason I want to start with that because if you're saying that we're old enough to vote and we're old enough to make that decision, that means we must also be old enough to be brought to the table to make policy changes and to be included in the conversation. Because I'm not saying that you have to let us hit a 6 out to the park and say, or let us change every single thing. No, what I'm saying is that we should be at least considered. What we're saying should be at least heard and actually implemented if it is relevant to what is going on. The issue that we're currently having is that persons are being asked to vote, but then when they're asking questions after the vote, or if they want to have further input, they don't have a way to do that, and persons are turning them down. People are saying that we are too young to understand how this will impact us in the future. And I keep saying that, how do you know that? Because one of the things that I let people know all the time, you keep saying how something will impact my future, but you can't guarantee that you'll be in this future with me. So when they're making decisions for my future and your future, they need to include us because 20, 50 years from now, they cannot guarantee that they will be here to say that the decisions that they made then really did impact us in the right way. When we go forward and we think about how we want to include young people at the table, we have a lot of youth organizations that make a stand, make their voice heard. We have youth parliament, where I think by now they should be written into law. They should be, that youth parliament should be a shadow committee of the current parliament. That means that when they sit at those tables, that what they do and what they develop and what they research should be used. It shouldn't just go into a stack and not be utilized, because if they're given them the opportunity to research and come up with plans and develop potential policies, it should not be considered that because they're too young, it should not be implemented. I feel that going forward, we really need to take a stern look at how we consider our young people's opinions, because we can't just say that they're too young and they need more development, they need to spend more time in school, they don't have enough experience. Why don't we have enough experience? We had enough experience when you asked me to vote for you. We had enough experience when you were selling me the proposal that I should be elected because this is the plan that I have to go forward. You asked me my opinion about those plans. You asked me how I interpreted those plans. Furthermore, you may even have asked me to contribute to your plans. But then when it comes down to the next conversation, I am forgotten, not included, maybe tossed aside, maybe not even on purpose. But the reality is that we keep wondering why we have a reduction of young persons voting. It is because young people feel that when we stand up, we are not heard. When we speak, we are not listened to. Because we have a lot of issues where young people stand up, they make a stand, they make their voices heard, and then people don't actually listen. We are usually looked down upon because maybe how we're dressed, maybe how we speak, maybe where we come from, but persons don't really consider us as having something impactful to say. They may put us on a board, they may put us on a panel, but sometimes we always wonder what is the outcome. How do I know that my contributions are really being taken seriously? And how can I hold the government and Barbados accountable? Because you want to increase participation in the younger voters, but you also need to build that trust and that relationship where you convince them that when you give me this opportunity to represent you, I will listen to you. I will listen to you not only up to the point of voting, but I will listen to you the day after. I may not be able to make all changes based on your contributions, but I will definitely consider them, and if they are good enough, implement them. We need to give our young people a platform that where their decisions and their voices could be heard, and those ideas can be utilized to help propel Barbados forward. Because if you talk about mission critical and the youth is a part of that, and we are a part of the future going forward, that means that you need to consider our ideas and our opinions and not just brush them underneath the rug because we are considered to be too young. We may be too young to be at your table, but that doesn't mean we're too young to be at a table. In saying that, that means that we need to really relook what we determine as the policy going forward and how we really value the youth and what the impact that they would bring to the table will do going forward. Because if you're saying that you want to give us a voice, you want us to lead the young people going forward, you want us to encourage persons to speak out more, you want us to sit on more boards and more panels and help you come up with ideas and develop ideas, that means that when we come to these tables, you need to respect us, you need to show us that you are really interested in what we are bringing and not just use it for your own idea. Because sometimes we are brought to the tables, but when we are brought, we are not even given the credit that we were even at the table. And I know a lot of people will say, man, it happens all the time, but it shouldn't. I shouldn't, when I am asked to come to a room, not be given an opportunity because I am a female, or not be given an opportunity because I am young. That is just only two factors or two characteristics of who I am. That doesn't mean that I have not researched this topic. That does not mean I do not understand what is being said in the room. We have lots of young people who constantly are questioning what is happening to us currently, what is happening in Barbados, and what is the plan for us going forward. Every single time I look around, I see young people questioning if what we have in our schools doesn't need changing, because we keep saying that young people are not interested. But the reality is that what is there to be interested in? You have young people going through the school program, and when they come out on the other side, it's almost like they never even went to the school. There's no programs in place to help young people develop the skills that they want to do. I remember not so long ago when I was going to school, almost 10 years ago. Can you imagine that? 10 years ago, I was in secondary school. And when I was there, I had to decide to choose between Spanish, doing a foreign language, and doing something I really wanted to do. In fifth form, I knew that I was not good at foreign language. It didn't matter how much extra work I put in, how much extra time I put in. I was just not good, but I was always good with my hands. So I was able to advocate and convince two teachers that one, I should be allowed to drop Spanish because I didn't think I could succeed in it, and two, pick up technical drawing. I picked up technical drawing in full form privately because I was that committed. Young people constantly are not listened to. And I knew that what I really wanted to do, and I knew my capabilities. The reason I share that story is because the school system was set up in a way that I had to do a foreign language, not because I was good or I had good marks, but because that was the requirement at my school. But I want you to know, when I switched programs, I went from getting 26 to 76. So it showed me that sometimes we need to listen, not only speak, because we know what we want. We have a lot of young people being forced into classes that they don't want to do, not because they're tired of school, because they're generally not interested in doing that program. I'm not saying that every single person should have the right to choose which programs they can go into. I feel like if you see a person who has the skills and who are making an active effort to go into this program, I feel that you should listen to them because maybe they know what they want to do. When I was at school again, I remember how strict the dress code policy was. And at that time, I had locks. And I had such a difficult time at school where I was questioned constantly about if my hair was at extensions, about how elaborate my hair was. But I always said that that did not determine who I was or how I saw myself or how that would impact my studies. I'm saying that to say that a lot of things that they focus on that is considered to be the rules are not really the rules. And we shouldn't spend so much focus on. We should refocus and listen to what our young people are saying. So what I'm really asking persons to do today is, if we are thinking that persons at 18 are old enough to vote, that means they should also be old enough to make and help create policy changes for the future. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Shaquani, for your presentation. On the last occasion, we had 20 persons who would have joined us physically. We had 300 persons online, and also 9,800 persons would have viewed the online presentation after the event.
Okay, so thank you very much. We're going to move on swiftly, even though I have many things going through my mind. I think Shaquani knocked a few bricks out of my head just now, too. So some preconceived notions that I had about certain things that I think she just dislodged quite swiftly. So I'm glad for that. The next person who's going to speak is Miss Tia Adana Bell, Barbadian Olympian, an all-around good person.
Hi. Good morning. Um, I want to actually continue on what Shakoni was saying. A lot of what she was saying is also in my presentation, but I just want to touch on something she said about the youth. I've also had a chance to interact with the youth around before I came here, and just have a conversation with them, see where their heads are at in pertaining to the government. And just as she said, the youth are angry, they're frustrated, they feel hurt and betrayed. There is a disconnection between government and the youth of this country. And until we get that fixed and rectified, everything that we try to do will not succeed. The youth is the future. And if I'm 27 years old, and I was telling the young lady next to me this morning that I have been listening to politics growing up, and we've had youth forums over and over and over, and nothing has changed. You are asking us every year for our opinions on matters that belong to us, our issues, our lives, our futures, and nothing has changed. I'm going to give you an example of an educational issue. I left here in 2014, to go to college. And I did criminal justice, graduated everything, and I've been running professionally since. Last year, I went through this phase, and I wanted to explore other career options. So I've always had an interest in the medical field. So I didn't want to go back to school for 2 to 4 years and, do the whole bachelor's and everything. So I picked up a course in phlebotomy. Phlebotomy is, the process of drawing blood, stuff like that, XYZ. This course was completed in 3 months. I am a qualified and certified phlebotomist in 3 months. I have the hands-on experience needed, the hours needed to go and work in a professional field in a hospital. And look at that, in simple 3 months. I came here to Barbados to ask if if I could work part-time in phlebotomy. I was told that phlebotomy is not even a profession in Barbados. My mom has been a nurse at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital for more than 15 years as a nursing assistant. My mother is not qualified to draw blood at the hospital. We have positions and careers, and they have not evolved. There needs to be more hands-on jobs out here. We have a skills training facility, a Barbados Vocational Board, and the jobs that are there, they're outdated, not coming for the electricians and stuff like that, mechanics, but we need to have more hands-on opportunity. The opportunities that are provided are so outdated, it's boring. And I'm going to be frank, this is exactly how the youth are putting it. It's boring. There's no mental stimulation, there's no challenge given to the youth to go out there and do something. It's everything has been the same black and white stuff, everything has been a box for so long, and there's no color, there's no vibrant, there's no chance for the youth to use their mind and excel. It's part of my speech somewhere, and I was saying there's this thing that we did in school called a school-to-prison pipeline in the criminal justice system. Basically, in America, there's this thing when they took away the rights of the teachers and have the children, the authority of the teachers, and have the police more involved in it. And the issue that we have with it is that they took the children and they went straight into the prison system. Right now, we have a similar pipeline, I just like to refer to it. We have a school-to-pregnancy pipeline, a school-to-block pipeline, and the kids end up back in prison. When we finish school at 16, some of these kids are lucky enough to go back to school at 18 years old, up to 18 years old if they're lucky. But when we become 18, there's a whole world out there, and there's nothing to do. There's no challenge for the kids. And then when you come and you talk to the adults and everything, is always this talk about, well, I had to do it this way, so you gotta go through it this way. And I think that this is a problem that the youth have with the older generation. No one is like, if they decided that the older generation, they worked so hard and they had these steps and they went through everything. They expect that we are supposed to go through that the same way. And the reality of it needs to change. This generation is extremely rebellious. Extremely rebellious. They do not care what everyone has to say anymore. they're saying that the adults are asking to be respected, but we are not respecting them, their views, their points, nothing. And it's causing the youth to shun away from politics. It's causing the youth to shun away from wanting to be involved because they think that is the government against them. And it has caused this survival mode in the youth to just, you know what, let me go and do what God do, because at the end of the day, nobody ain't checking for me. And the reality of it, right, is that when you listen to these kids on the block and on the street and hear them talk and what excites them, is crazy that there has been no change yet. Like, even our parliamentary representative, let me close my laptop, sorry. I'm saying, right, I'm not going to point any fingers or call their names, but I'm giving an example. The Minister of Sports, Youth and Community. Why is it that we have a minister that is supposed to be over us, but he's not involved in us? I'm not calling out saying he's doing a bad job or anything, but I feel like he should be more interactive with the youth. If you are for me, I want to see you, I want to meet you, I want to, hear your background, your experience. I want to relate to you as a person. All the issue is that we cannot relate to these authorities, We want that. Okay, so like, all right, you come up, putting pastor, there's a football game that we have in the community, and he's there and he's seeing what's going on. I could come up to you and not feel ashamed or embarrassed on what I'm trying to say, and you could hear, because in the reality of it, these people are not there every day. They're not experiencing what we are experiencing. They're not seeing what is going on, and nobody is listening. Nobody is going out and trying. Sorry. Nobody is going out. Nobody's listening. Nobody is taking what we are saying into consideration. We know what's best. We know what we want. We know what is best for us. As the old people always say, nobody could tell you what's best for you but you. Simple. And I feel like we both need, and I'm not being disrespectful or anything, but I do feel like we do need both adults that have the experience, and we need the kids that have the idea. It needs to be a symbiotic relationship on what is going to happen and what is going to go forward in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Tia. Just for those online who are maybe curious about the line of argument, remember that a major part of the parliamentary system is actually funding the services that government provides, right? And the outcomes are extremely important. You don't want a parliament that's just providing funds for outcomes that you may not be getting that you intend to get. So when you listen to the youth and they're saying certain things, they're speaking right now about the outcomes, and they want a better relationship between what they're supposed to be getting and what they're actually getting, and they want to have an improvement in the condition that Parliament is actually supposed to be paying for in the first place, right? So let's move on very swiftly to Mr. Dante Harvey, member of the Youth Parliament of Barbados.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Dr. Chandler. Good morning to those online and those in the audience. My name, as you said, my name is Dante Harvey. I am a member of the Barbados National Youth Parliament. My extract today will be part of our written submission, which we will submit. When we first saw the questions for today's Parliamentary Reform Town Hall meeting, what do you want from your MPs and your government? What should Parliament deliver to future generations of Barbadians? And how can a country give young people a greater voice in national affairs? Our light bulbs went off. So in the beginning, to vote or not to vote. Should the selection of the President of Barbados be an appointed ceremonial president or an elected ceremonial president? This determines the method of selection we should use, whether to vote or not to vote. If the President of Barbados is an appointed ceremonial president, he or she should be indirectly elected by Electoral College. This college comprises all of the members of the Lower House, the Senate, and both speakers of the chambers, and must gain the majority vote among the college. However, if he or she is an elected ceremonial president, then we must exercise our democracy and have the people of this country vote. The acting president of Barbados or the vice president of Barbados should be appointed by the Electoral College, removing the current notion that the dean of the Anglican Church shall be the acting president of Barbados. We're then looking for the point of accountability. What does this mean? We believe that parliamentarians should be held to a higher standard as they're elected to serve the people of Barbados and to become legislators. If parliamentarians are accused of committing a criminal offense or offense punishable by law, he or she should not be allowed to hold any ministerial portfolio. The parliamentarian should be stripped of said ministerial portfolio until the case is finished. If found guilty, he or she should be excused from being a member of parliament and a by-election is called. If found not guilty, the parliamentarian should remain as an MP and the decision on their position in cabinet will be left in the hands of the Prime Minister. Mentorship. We, the members of the Barbados National Youth Parliament, believe that parliamentarians should give back some time in mentoring the members of the National Youth Parliament. How? Allowing members of the Barbados National Youth Parliament to be shadow ministers. This gives the youth parliamentarians the opportunity to see the functions of a minister and what a ministerial portfolio encompasses. This will also bring a different perspective to the level of debate as the youth parliamentarians, like others across the Commonwealth. This method has been done in Jamaica, Antigua and Barbuda, Trinidad and Tobago, Scotland, to name a few. What should Parliament deliver to future generations of Barbadians? We believe three simple things. Sustainability. That Barbados is viewed and recognized internationally, globally, as a business trade fit economy that gives the SIDS, small island developing state. In addition, that is viable for entrepreneurs and business owners and other areas of self-sufficiency, given our limited natural resources and current growing importation bills, expenditure, and reliance. Stability. Maintaining the integrity of our dollar value so that it is not devalued and possibly increased or augmented. Improving trade and e-commerce. Avenues to bolster our tourism product without diminishing or removing our aesthetics, traditions, or unique value systems. As such, staying true to who we are and our luck, while satisfying entire market requirement. And finally, inclusivity. Making Barbados an island where all persons, whether of denominations, ethnicity, age, race, and education qualifications, are included in decision-making in this country. Finally, how can the country give young people a greater voice in national affairs? We believe by youth engagement, allowing young persons in Barbados to have a voice on national affairs. The National Youth Parliament is one of these youth organizations debating national crises affecting the youth in this country. Parliamentarians can allow the members of the BNYP to debate on green papers either before or after they have been to cabinet. This gives the drafters the opportunity to hear the youth's perspective on the policy being created. And finally, investing time and making resources accessible for all youth groups in Barbados responsible for the development of youth in Barbados. These youth groups are not only the Barbados National Youth Parliament, they can range from the Barbados Youth Development Council, as they're one of the main arms of youth development in this country, and giving them the necessary space to grow and become greater versions of themselves. This is a brief extract from our written submission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dante. The next person who will speak is a young sixth former from the Lodge School. I think there's some Lodge School graduates in here. Dr. Ishmael is one of them. And I think this is the end of Founders Week for Lodge School, isn't it? It is. So congratulations to Lodge School. I think there's a Lodge School teacher in here as well. So I think Lodge School is well represented. Ms. Nyanji Bradshaw, sixth form student of the Lodge School.
It is unfortunate that in the midst of global turmoil with respect to youth in crisis, Barbados finds itself at a point where embracing youth people and youthful leadership is clearly still beyond its imagination. These are the words used by our very own Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley when Khalil Koftiwala was rejected for being a senator at his age. How can we talk about bringing the youth, including the youth, and wanted to hear the opinions, when someone so passionate, so into it, and ready to spread the words of the youth, spread everything we want, was rejected because of his age. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a prime example of a mindset that has been embedded into our society for years and has only caused damage. A child should be seen and not heard. A child should take a child's place. But what is a child's place? In this country right now, we currently see a child as an accessory, something that should be forced into this, something that you decide what you want to do. This child has no opinion for itself. This child has no answer for its child. This child has no thoughts, no mindset. What it has to say is disregarded. That is constantly what we are seeing in this forum. I'm not only here as a Lodge student, I'm here as Vice President of the Lodge School Student Council, and we have so much to say. We have so much. We constantly speak out. We are in National Student Council, talking about problems, trying to solve problems with our own school, but we are not being heard. The same thing is, as we've already heard here, we've heard the same thing happening with Youth Parliament. Although it has a multitude of amazing talents and skilled youths, it's still massively underheard by official Parliament members. What happened to all the many reports that Youth Parliament has submitted? Are they being used in any policy makings? Are they being credited? Are they being recognized? Or are they barely sitting in a corner collecting dust because they're young and inexperienced? Again, how can we talk about wanting to include the youth, wanting youth participation, wanting our future leaders to take charge in our country, but yet we refuse what they have to say? This is one of the core issues in the future of Barbados Parliament. This is one in Barbados Parliament. It needs to take the future youth, the future leaders seriously. The opportunity to not only be heard, but to be taken seriously. Let the youth feel like their ideas are being actioned upon and not just falling on deaf ears. This is the first real step of integrating young members of society to being interested in the future of Barbados. I came in this forum naive. I knew nothing. I didn't even know what Parliament does. I tried to research it. It's so hard to figure out what to research. It's so hard to find things about Parliament, what they've done. It's so hard to find youth actually participating, because I tried to join Youth Parliament. I've tried to look up these things, and whether their Facebooks are not updated, their websites are not updated, there's no way of contacting them without knowing someone inside. All these things that are happening in our country with the youth, you have to know someone inside, or you actually have to be directly involved to understand, to know what's happening, to be involved in these situations. And that is not okay. And building on Tia's point, there should be no reason why we should be represented by someone who has not gone through the same things as us. Why is our Minister of Youth not even close to our age? There is a generation gap between parents and children. If there's a generation gap between children and parents, how do you expect that a minister generations above us is supposed to understand how we feel? How are we supposed to cope with that? How are we supposed to get in contact with that? How are we supposed to explain? It's like telling someone who has explained a different situation, they don't understand, basically. They don't understand what you're saying. They've never went through it. They've never understood what we are feeling. They're not going to understand it. They're not going to push as much as we will, because they just don't get it. They don't care about it as much as us. And then lastly, again, bringing back to my point that we still have this mindset here that a child should be seen and not heard. This mindset has brought pride into this nation. There's a huge stigma that your worth is accredited to how old you are, how much information you have, or how much value you are by your age. You're not taken seriously if you are young. You're not taken seriously in 20s. You're not really taken seriously until you get a senior. Because that's just how we are. You go, you tell a senior something, respect. Why are you telling me this? I know everything. I know this, I know that. I've been here longer than you. I've experienced harder turmoils than you. How am I supposed to listen to you that has barely just come in? I brought you in here. I started this generation. You are listening to me. But that's not how it goes. It's not supposed to be one directional. It's supposed to be a discussion between generations and generations, because many things have happened in this country. Many things will continue evolving in this country. We need to keep in contact with each other. We need to keep that communication strong without any judgment, without any stigma. To talk without having some kind of... Okay. To talk without having that kind of basis of, oh, I should watch my words around them. I should be respectful. You can still be respectful with talking back and forth, like we are on a same level. No one is above someone because of their age. But basically, to rectify all of this, I very much implore the Parliament to give children more chances to speak on manners with actual ears, with actual work to action on what they have to say, with the same amount of publicity we give to any adult forums and discussions, to improve all these things, to give children the opportunity to learn about this so they can gain an interest into Parliament. Because again, we are today's future leaders. We are tomorrow's leaders. That is all.
Thank you very much. It is hot outside and also hot in here. And we expect even more fire from our next presenter. Right, at this time I want to acknowledge the presence of the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Charles Griffith. Thank you, sir, for joining us. I want to read just a few comments from persons who are online. One of the questions, what type of systems do we have operating to ensure the youth remain productive? What type of systems do we have operating to ensure the youth remain productive? That's one question. There's also another comment. Persons want to see more young persons on national commissions. And we also, there was a comment from someone as it relates to, I believe this was when Shakwani was speaking. And this person, Shakwani, believes that you're a future prime minister, right? So when you go back online, just thank this person for her comments. So we're having persons who are interacting online, and we look forward to more interactions as we continue this morning. Over to you.
Rest assured that the members of the panel will get a chance to speak again, but the last presentation from the panelists comes from Mr. Tahir Bulbulia, youth advocate, and a moderator on Down the Brass Stacks, who's ready and raring to go.
A blessed good morning to one and all. First of all, it's a pleasure to sit here, firstly, alongside everybody. And I want you all to give the commission a big round of applause for engaging young people. Secondly, as I was telling Ambassador Elizabeth, that we have 3 foundationers on the panel. It was Lodge Week this week, but I think the foundationers have won today, and we have the chair as well and the deputy chair, who are former foundation students. Mama, you went foundation too? No, no worries. No, you have to. And I believe there's some other foundation. And as Dr. Chandler is mentioning, the Clerk of Parliament who sits on the commission as well. But let me get serious now. Let me get down to brass tacks if that's what you all want. The reality of the situation is, and I want to commend everybody that spoke before me because they touched on some important points as it relates to the systems that we have in Barbados. And Dante spoke on the Youth Parliament, what the Youth Parliament's perspective on bettering youth involvement at a national level as it relates to political development, government development, and overall national development. What I'll touch on today is the first question that was asked: what do you want from MPs and your government? I think the reality is that young people in Barbados want accessibility, the ability to have access to their member of parliament and to be able to engage with their member of parliament at every level. But in order for that to take place, we have to understand the culture that presides in Barbados. And any of my fellow panelists could tell me if I'm wrong, but the culture that presided previously or that is known now, and the success of the MP is often linked to how often you see the MP. Man, when you go down to the rum shop or when you go on the road, you say, man, I ain't see my MP, he ain't no good. Or I ain't see my member of parliament for the last year since he come canvassing. But we have to understand what is the role of the member of parliament. What is the role of the MP? And the role of the MP, the member of parliament, in the context of what we live in, is that they have to provide to the needs of the constituency, whether it be welfare, whether it be the infrastructural development of the constituency, whether it be social development. Now, in this time, a lot more mental health cases to address the concerns and to provide solutions to the constituents at every level. Now, it brings us to, we understand the culture that presides, but what do young people want? As I said, accessibility and engagement. The reality is, and Tia touched on it a tad, that we have become a very result-oriented generation. And oftentimes we get in trouble because we so focus on getting the job done, the process may not be the way in which it was. But the culture that presided previously was focused heavily on the process as part of the result. But now, you see the shift. We just want to get it done mentality. Just get the job done. Obviously following the rules and the laws of the day. But get the job done and get the results that you have been put there to do. That is where accessibility and engagement comes from. So, in the constituency for a member of parliament, if the situations at hand, and we spoke on systems, if the situation demands that they need a road to be fixed, if there's welfare that needs to be given, if there is an opportunity that is needed to be provided for anybody within the constituency, more so a young person directly related to the conversation, then that is the role of the MP to deal with the issues of the constituency and the people within. So how can we shift this culture of seeing the MP and using the tool of how often you see the MP and he ain't come and drink with me for a long time, or she ain't come and visit me for a little while and he ain't attend the funeral. Yes, all of those things are fine. But what is the reality and what is the role of the member of parliament? Those things, in my opinion, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, those are secondary, and the primary role is to deal with the concerns and the issues as it relates to the constituency. But how can we now shift this mindset with the culture that presides? And this is one of my main recommendations, and I said it on here, Dr. Chandler reminded me as well, that one of the recommendations that I want to put forward is education is critical. Shakwani spoke on it. Education is critical in this development of the mindsets and how we view our member of parliaments, how we view our political system, how we view our governmental system. So, and if possible, through you, Chair, and through you, Chair of the Commission as well, and I put up my hand. If an arm of this commission can be to go into schools and speak to the young persons on the systems that we have of the political governmental system, because the reality is education does need reforming, as Shaquani spoke on, but we are not going to get there in any quick succession. So civic citizenship, and that is an important part of the development of our country, because this mindset needs to change. As part of this, the process and the system of understanding how can you get your issues addressed. And this for me was one of my biggest shocks when I went onto Brass Stars. A lot of people do not know the processes of dealing with issues. So how can we address this, one, as a commission, two, as young people, and three, moving forward into a transformative Barbados that we all want to see? Starts within the school system. Let me start teaching our young people on these processes within a civics course, within a civics subject, whether it be within a social studies, and this can be address some of the issues we have as it relates to young people being involved. Am I making sense? Or I really am making a big loss, saints? Right. Secondly, after the accessibility and the engagement, opportunities. So once you have the access to the MP and you engage with the Member of Parliament, opportunities can flow, or should flow. But the reality is, and I often tell young people, is that nobody owes us anything. I know often people they say we feel like we're the entitled generation. Yes, there's a sense of entitlement, and there's a sense of fastness. We want it now. Everything is no. But the reality is we have to put in the work and grow. Opportunities. And this now is straddling between the public sector reform, constitutional reform, and parliamentary reform. But if we're going to have successful governments, we have to have a successful public sector. We have to have a better and more productive public sector. The reality is, and Senator McLean, she spoke on it eloquently at Leicester Vaughan, and he took her point, that we have a high level of productivity in Barbados, but there needs to be improvements within the systems that we have within our public sector. And if you look at the systems, and I was trying to get some data, I don't know if my colleague or Corey can speak to it, but what is the average age of a person within the public sector? We have a very aged public sector. And then the young people are not coming in. I work within it, and I see it. The hierarchy system within our public sector affects the development and the productivity of the government, naturally, because they're interconnected. So how can we do this? Let me give you a very practical example, because some persons may not be aware. Let me take a state-owned enterprise, for example. You have the CEO, you have the deputy CEO. The CEO will be there for the time on contract. The deputy CEO will operate as an appointed position. Let me come down. You have then the directors, who often in the age of 60. They have the managers in the ages of 50. The senior development officers in the age of 40 to 50. And then you have the research officers or natural development officers who are in the 30s, 40s, 50s, depending. And then the hierarchy system of going up is then, when that director goes on, the manager naturally flows up to the director position. When the manager moves up to the director position, who goes up? So the chain is so long that as a 23-year-old, 24-year-old coming into the system, how long will it take me to get to that directorship position? So that brings me to the point at hand. Opportunities are needed within the public sector for our young people to come out. We have an education system we're a highly qualified education system, but the opportunities have not been forthwith, and we need some more young people within our public sector, which can then, in essence, build the government. I'm not saying get rid of the older generations, because it has to be intergenerational dialogue. I am the person in the middle. I do not believe in, they say, throw away all the old people, bring in all the young people. No, that is not going to ever work in any society or any system. There needs to be that experience mixed with that enthusiasm, with that innovation, with that energy, and experience will grow from there. I'm making sense? I really am making a big law, saints. When I can tell me, you know. Right. Youth on boards, as it relates to young people serving on boards as well. And this is linking to the opportunities. If you have young people serving on the boards within our country, this can go a long way as it relates to engagement. But it cannot be solely dependent on political affiliations or, yes, I'll leave it there. Political affiliations. We need younger persons who are in, man, say talk, you talk. That's another program, Dr. Chandler. That's on another station, sir. But for this program, right. No, it has to be young persons who are invested in the development of Barbados and the interest within the development of Barbados. Oftentimes, we get politically clouded, politically affiliated, and we need to bridge that gap and focus on the national issues and national development and what's better for Barbados and what's better for our country and what's better for young people. So that's opportunities. As it relates to the Senate, I was dabbling in my mind as to which route to go. I'm of the belief and the recommendation that we need 3 persons under the age of 30 serving within the Senate. I am fine with how our parliamentary, our lower house works, our election system, our elective system. I am perfectly fine with that. Have the political parties, the independence groups operate in the election. I do not feel that the elective process needs to change. But as it relates to the Senate, I think there needs to be some amendments to the Senate. I have not come, in my mind, I will be real, I have not materialized it as to how best it can work, but for the purposes of this morning, I believe 3 young persons under the age of 30 can sit in the Senate. And how can these be appointed? 1, by the government, by the sitting government, 2, by the opposition, and 3, as appointed by the President of Barbados. Those 3, failure to have an opposition, we can have, 3, 1 appointed by the government of the day, 2 by the opposition, and 3 by the president. That's correct? Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, I want to have a conversation. We can have a conversation so you can interject. I don't want it to...
They just meant that, the order and spoke. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. Failure to have an opposition, the second person can be appointed by the president as well. So so today, for example, we don't have an opposition due to how the process went. We can have 2 appointed by the president under the age of 30. I was dabbling between 30 and 35, but I believe 30 can be a good age to have persons sitting within the Senate of Barbados. Yes, sir. Pardon? And if there's an opposition, 1 person. So 1 will be elected, appointed by the government, 1 by the opposition, and then 1 by the president of the day. If there's no opposition, 2 will then be appointed by the president, 1 from the government. We good? That's clear? And finally, the reality is that a lot of persons mention that youth are the leaders of tomorrow. I take a different stance. We got to start preparing for today. In a tomorrow in promise. We have to see ourselves as leaders of today, and we have to put in the work to go forward and for the development of Barbados. As I said earlier, we have to put the political affiliations aside and focus on the development of Barbados. Barbados is in an interesting place, and we have the ability to chart this path. And these commissions are important for the development of Barbados, but I find oftentimes we get clouded with that political thing, and politics is fine. The political jargon is fine. Political affiliations is fine. But at some point in time, there needs to be a drawing in the sand of national issues where we put that aside and we focus on what is critical for the development of Barbados. So with that, I thank you and I look forward for any questions.
Thank you so much, Tahir. Usually, wherever I go, I am literally the youngest person in the room, but not today, so I really appreciate it. This part now is interactive. Feel free to come up to the mic and have your say. I know there's 1 person who already indicated earlier that she wanted to speak. She can come up to the mic if she so chooses. You still want to speak? Yes? You can come to the mic. Okay. In the meantime, let me also let you know that we're still taking contributions from online. You can submit your questions from online. And if there are any young people in here who want to speak, and there are some young people in here who have their hands up and some speaking to the teachers, etc., you can feel free to come to the mic. I also went to hear mentioned education, and Shakwani mentioned education, Tia mentioned education, Nyanji mentioned education, Dante mentioned education. It kept coming to my mind. I mean, it brought me back to a tutorial I went to when I was at University of West Indies, Cave Hill, where I had this habit of walking from every tutorial. You only had to go to one tutorial, you used to go to all. And
You was a model student.
I was,
I didn't used to go to tutorials.
well, there's a person I know from Harrison College who called me nerdy. And if a Harrisonian is calling you nerdy, you know that something is wrong. But the lecturer kept asking people at the tutorials, what are the 14 principles or pillars of liberal democracy? And one of those pillars is actually education, political education, right? Which is to a large extent lacking in Barbados, as we've heard from the panelists here. So going forward, as part of the parliamentary system, we're going to have to think about political education because it is literally a part of the system. We already have civics coming back into schools, so we're going to have to think about that. But let me not take up the show. Ma'am, would you please say your name and then you can ask a question.
My name is Corinne Louetta Bentham. I have worked at Parliament, and as you can see, I'm not very young. So I have worked many different places, and the Parliament job was the best. I mean, that's the best job that I have had. In my opinion, the best job was a reporter at Parliament. I learned so much, and it was very interesting. A reporter at Parliament, what you do is you record everything that the politician says. So you have to have a broad knowledge or get it very fast of all the things that each politician does to record that, and then that is, well, edited and recorded and put in the journal. Anyway, what I have been toying with for a long time is the expense of governments. And it would be, you know, whether it's a republic or monarchy, all governments needs money. They never have enough money. And they have to borrow to do infrastructural work. They have to, because they have the water, the light, everything they're responsible for. I'm going to get to the young people too late. So anyway, I came up with this concept. If every working person gives the government a gift of $1 a month from their, sorry? Oh, one, okay, I came up with a concept that if every working person gives the government a gift of $1 a month, I mean, you pay your taxes and all that, but that's not enough. They never have enough money to do all the things, especially all the things that you people need to do and that you people want done. And that would go a long way. Now, the collection problem would be, the collection process would be up to the prime ministers and the presidents and the leaders and that way. But, and I want to mention this one thing. The president, the late President Kennedy, told his country years ago, don't ask what the government can do for you. Ask what you can do for the government. And that is very, very noble, I think. And that stayed with me a long, long time. And I think that this $1 a month for every person, it will roll out all the programs that the need for the young people, because I think that each minister should have an aide or something, working with him, going to the schools, finding out what they need, who wants to do law, who wants to do nursing, who wants to do this, who wants to do that, and lead them in that direction, and get a program going for each person that wants to excel. Like the other girl there said. I can't remember the names, you know. She wanted to do drawing or something, and they wanted her to do Spanish or French or something. So, I mean, that is what I want to say. And even though in the United States they have this big problem, they want to shut down all these things and that, and the trillions and millions of people there.
Ma'am, you're going to have to speak into the mic.
The trillions and millions of people that they have, just $1, and if they can collect all that money, they wouldn't have a problem. I think we can do it. I really think that we can do it.
Okay, thank you very much. Damani Paris, you wanted to have a chat? For those who don't know, Damani was my guild president when I was at UWI.
Greetings to you, Chair Dr. Chandler. Always lovely to see you. Good morning to members of the panel. I just wanted to make a very brief comment, a comment, not a question, as it relates to the question as it relates to the future of the Barbados Parliament. My concern is and continues to be with the diversion that is occurring between the amount of work that is necessary for us to accomplish as a nation and the number of people that we have to do it. There has been a lot of discussion, particularly as it relates to how we approach Parliament and in the future. There has been a lot of discussion about the expense of ministers, how much they cost, what it costs to run government, what the processes of government and so on. But my challenge remains that we live in an environment where the world is becoming ever more complex. The world of today is far more complex than it was in the 1990s, than it was in the 2000s when I was at school, than it was in the 2010s. We live in a world where knowledge doubles now. I believe every 6 years is the UN statistic. You have, as a minister, to be responsible for the implementation and the management of a set of policies that every time you look at it, the policy docket is thicker and thicker and thicker. Your externalities, the external demands on your time are more and greater. The amount of effort it takes to represent Barbados on the international stage, ever increasing. My concern, as we have this conversation about parliamentary reform, is that we do not recognize that that is our trend. That the minister with the same 24 hours in his day is being asked to accomplish more with less and less capacity to do so and less availability of that time. And we are asking for us, and this was discussed at the Leicester Vaughan conversation, we are asking whether or not there is a conversation to be had about us having ministers separated from Parliament. And I think that we have to have that conversation seriously, because we live in an environment where this very commission is an example of enterprise in democracy that we have not seen in Barbados regularly. We do not usually have an extensive amount of interaction with the legislative authorities. We do not usually have a significant amount of interaction with the government about the things that we are trying to change. And there has been a substantial effort to increase that democracy, to increase that face time in recent times, to ensure that we are able to actually have a situation where persons are interacting with parliamentarians and saying, well, this is what we demand, this is what we need, this is what we want to see happen. And legislative committees, I believe, are an important mechanism for capturing those efforts. Commissions like these, an important mechanism for capturing those efforts. And I think we need more and not less of these things. And in an environment where we need more, and we know that the minister's time is limited, we have to ask ourselves, how do we comport with the apportionment of that 24 hours that the minister has in a way that allows us to actually accomplish everything that we need to accomplish? We acknowledge that there is a need for us to have these conversations, but then there is not sufficient time in schedules to facilitate it. So we have to ask ourselves, cost-benefit analysis. is the cost not worth the benefit? Is the democracy not worth investing in? Do we not believe that it is important for us to have these conversations and thereby allow the rich discussion to emerge? So that's just my question, and or rather my comment, and I wonder what the panel is thinking. Thank you.
The money, I just have a question. And you can come back if you so desire. Apart from the commissions and setting up from the commissions, what are some other strategies you see as part of this transforming the system that is needed? I know you got the answer. I know you got the answer because you made the comments with a specific reason. So what is your suggestion?
What I believe we have to do is to accept that if we have, and because we have, to engage in a society where, for example, health and education and such other discussions have to happen, it is all right that one has a ministry with responsibility for these things. It's fine and dandy. But the ministry is responsible for running the activities of that situation day to day. I have to make sure that the school is open, that the roof isn't leaking. That's the daily activity. But when it comes to the perspective of how can I receive feedback about what is the long-term education strategy, what is the education agenda, and so on, those situations are best handled by commissions and legislative committees. And that may require that the legislative committee that discusses those things be separate from the person who is implementing the daily activity that legislative committee has identified as the long-term strategy. So you have your long-term strategy that has to be come up with by one set of persons, but then you have the daily executive management of that activity.
And the role of the minister then?
The role of the minister will remain the executive role. But
Executive role in what sense?
executive role in terms of managing the day-to-day. The minister
So I thought your point that you were making was that the ministry, meaning the ministry, the service, public sector deals with the day-to-day, headed by the minister?
Headed by the minister.
And they have commissions to deal with the long-term development of the country.
That's what I'm proposing.
So have one on sports, have one on health, have one on education.
So that we can have a richer discussion and a capacity to, at the same time that we are trying to do today, view what we are trying to do in the future and put that perspective in place. That's really the content of my suggestion.
Okay, understood.
You know, one of the interesting things about that is that at least one act in Barbados, the Education Act, ironically, has that structure in it already, where there's a National Advisory Commission on Education legislated in the act. So it's not a far-fetched to have that replicated throughout the ministries. Personally, I think the Education Act is one of the best written pieces of legislation in Barbados. As Ambassador Thompson is coming to the mic, let me also let the audience know that I've invited the members of the panel to ask questions and comment on the various presentations being made. The illustrious Ambassador Thompson is at the mic and ready to go.
Illustrious because I'm white, wearing white, so it's easy to be seen. Thank you, William. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I want to start by really saying a huge thank you to the panel. I know there's going to be a formal vote of thanks later, but I have to tell you that when I called all of the members of the panel, or each of them, to ask them to participate in this exercise, they all readily agreed. And I have to tell you, after hearing you, that I cannot help but feel that the future of Barbados is in great hands.
Thank you.
I mean, you are all so articulate and passionate and forceful, and it was really lovely to hear you, even though I disagreed. Just teasing. I wanted to ask a couple questions, please, because you will appreciate that. We really want to take a record of what you are saying, so I need to probe some of the points that you made in order to be able to, write up a report, get the recommendations clear, and therefore I have some specific comments and some specific questions. I want to start by saying to Dante that it was clear that the Youth Parliament took the time to think about the questions, about the subject, and to go beyond the scope of the questions, which is really what we wanted to do. So we look forward to receiving your written submissions. I would say to the other members as well that since many of you are part of youth organizations, that if you could persuade your organizations to make a written submission, which would then augment the comments that you made, because I think that you all spoke, except for Dante, perhaps in your own right, and therefore that would be particularly useful for us. I'll repeat the comment so for the public could hear it. So Richard, our chairman, is suggesting it doesn't have to be a thesis. It could be 3-4 pages, and perhaps this is really a prime opportunity to say to those listening that each of you, anyone, is at liberty, please, to send us your remarks. It can be 1 page, it can be a paragraph, it can be an idea that you have, and we really want to capture new ideas in a very succinct way. Okay, so to go to some specific questions and comments. Each of you spoke about not feeling heard as young people. And therefore, my question to all of you, since you all made the point, except perhaps to hear, would be, what mechanism would you suggest could be put in place to enlarge your space and voice in the national public space so that you could feel heard? What would make you feel heard? So that's my first question. I take the point that you want to be, have a voice on boards, commissions, and so on. And let me take this opportunity to boast for this commission. This is the first time in our history that a national commission has actually had a public youth forum. And I think that we were online last week, Thursday, to have a huge turnout. And I think that the Barbados Light and Power, with whom everybody's angry right now, cost us a great deal. But I think so far, our largest engagement post the event was nearly 10,000 people viewing the very last panel. I suspect that this one is going to exceed that, because the content was so good. I think the word will get around. So thank you very much. So to hear, you said that you wanted to see 3 persons in the Senate under 30. My question to the panel, therefore, is what do you think should be a minimum age for someone to serve in the Senate as a youth representative? It is my enduring pain that I sat in the Senate and watched senators vote against a youth representative. It was, for me, a sad day. So should there be a minimum age, and if there should be a minimum age, what is it? And my final question is to throw out to you an idea that I have, and to get your reaction or to get your further suggestions. So I'll give you the idea. I will elaborate on it. I want your reaction to that specific idea, but it may then prompt you to say, we don't like that at all. Our suggestion would be something entirely different, and therefore I'm open to that. As a member of the commission, I am toying with the idea, and let me say that clearly we all have our individual perspectives. And while we have now started to discuss the recommendations and ideas that have come to us from the public, that we have not yet made any conclusions on what our recommendations to government will be. What you are hearing, therefore, is a Liz Thompson idea, but is not the position of the commission. with that caveat, how would you react to A, the idea of national parliamentarians who are elected from specific interest groups or to have specific purposes not necessarily constrained by the structure which we currently have? Question A. Question B. In that context, or even outside of it, should there be a national youth parliamentarian, not a senator, a national youth parliamentarian who is elected by the vote of all the young people in Barbados who are qualified to vote? And up to what age would you consider a person a youth? So that, should that be people who are 18 who would qualify to vote, up to 35, 18 to 40, 18 to 30? How would you define youth? And if you support the concept of a youth parliamentarian, how would you see that person being elected? Should people outside of your definition of youth, so I think I'm maybe at question D or E now, should people outside of your definition of youth also be allowed to vote? For instance, I'm going to be 62 in November. And I remember when I was your age and getting involved in national things and serving on little youth committees and being asked to speak, and that's why I'm so excited to see you. But that's just a little bit of nostalgia for me. But the question is, really, should somebody who is outside of the definition of youth, which you are going to give me, really be allowed to vote in that election to determine who the youth parliamentarian should be? Who should represent the youth?
This is one person? One
Yes,
single person?
one seat.
Okay.
One seat. So you would have a youth parliamentarian. The person would be, so I'm just giving you mind. The person would be nominated by their political party. So let's just say the BLP wanted to nominate you as their youth parliamentarian, you're their youth candidate, and let's say the Democratic Labour Party is nominating Shakwani as their youth candidate. So you would then become the two candidates of those two political parties, and if other political parties exist, they would also nominate their particular candidates. Or you would have independent youth candidates, the same way you could have independent candidates now. And then all of those persons would be the youth candidate for, or the candidate for youth parliamentarian. And then the young people, if you say only young people should vote, those persons would be voted for, and whoever gets the most votes would automatically become the national youth MP. That's the concept I'm running with in my head. So I wanted your reaction to those issues, please. I'm going to hold the microphone so that if I have to probe a little further to engage you on the issues, I hope you wouldn't mind. And I'm not going to hog the show because clearly there are people here who may want to speak. I'm also going to take the opportunity to behave like a young person and not do a selfie, but take some photos of you from this angle so that I can share with you later on.
We could take a selfie, Ambassador.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador.
We can do a selfie.
So, since the questions are so involved, if the members of the panel can make their replies as brief as possible while not limiting yourself, I'd appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, around 2 minutes. Thanks to you.
What order you want us to go in?
You can go.
For some reason, I keep getting thrown on the bus to go first all the time, but I am going to say thank you, and I will go ahead. The first question that the ambassador asked was about what would make young people feel heard. For me and for most young persons, I am thinking that either a platform or a structured setup where that we can either submit our queries or ask questions, because the reality is that young people keep having to turn to the internet and keep having to turn to social media and even writing articles. But who do we submit them to? Where do we send this information? Who is listening to us? Because to identify how we want to be heard, we must first identify who is listening, because it doesn't make sense just randomly speaking, because that is the issue we currently have. We do not know who we should direct these questions and statements to. And if we could identify a person that is supposed to take up these queries to help us go through them and fix the issues that we have, I think that would be a great opportunity for us to go forward. I see the minister
Sorry, can you
his
define
hand.
a platform for me?
Well, I'm going to say, I guess the platform could be online. It could either be a website or it could be a written platform, because I don't want to limit it to say everybody has access to the internet, because surprisingly not everybody in this day and age does. But if you create a web page where persons could submit either video, written, or even an audio file where they want to submit their issues, where the issues could be debated, they have the option to submit them publicly or privately, and then young persons have an opportunity to participate in it. And we can even go further and say we can introduce this into the schools. A lot of students feel like they're not being heard. Maybe if it is in the schools and they know that, okay, you have an issue at your school and you feel it needs a larger platform, maybe I can submit it on here and we can have a national debate with other young people. And that way we can say we are being heard, but we need to identify who's going to be responsible for it. Should I answer all the other questions one time or? Okay. The next question that was asked was, to Tayir's question. I think that was an excellent idea about the 3 persons being potentially nominated from the youth to sit on the Senate. But I want to go one step further, because all 3 of those posts were selected by somebody. I think we should open up that one of the posts, a person should be able to write in and express why they want the post. Mainly because if we're going to do it as in a person is selected, I may not know the right people to be considered to be selected. I may not be seen in the public and make enough noise to be recommended for the post. So if we open up a platform where persons could submit and say, I want an opportunity to sit on the seat in Senate, and give extensive reasons why. Because if it's going to be a post, it's going to be competitive. Everybody's going to want it. Everybody's going to think that they have what it takes. Everybody's going to think that their way is the best way. And to make it fair for persons who do not get the opportunity to be selected, I think they should be given an opportunity to write in and say why they should be considered at least for one of those posts. For the next question, a national parliamentarian elected, is that a youth? Yeah. Okay. I think that is an excellent idea. I'm going to repeat it, because one of the things that a lot of the panelists said is that we felt like we were not heard. I heard it here today when we have MPs representing the youth that are a lot older than us, even though they're young at heart. But the reality is that they're in a generation gap that is different for us, because when they would have been young, they had different issues facing them. We have different issues. How many young people 50 years ago could say that they experienced COVID-19 pandemic, they experienced a volcano eruption? Like, we experience so much hardships in this generation alone. Persons cannot even compete with what we feel and how we were put in positions where we had to attend school online. So the reality is that I think that she was right. We need a younger person as the Minister of Youth. And if the national parliamentarian position would be recommended for as a young person's post, I think that is a good step forward. If the government can consider this, this would be an excellent show of their listening and we were heard. On the last question, it was quite long, but what I get from it was that she wanted to know what the age limit would be if the person was recommended. I dropped the age limit because even though you're only allowed to vote at 18, if we're going to ask for young people to be taken seriously, and if we want to say that this post is for young people, we need young persons that are at least 14 to be given the opportunity to vote. Because I want you, don't doubt me, because if you're going to say at 14 we're allowed to do CXCs, they should be at least considered, because I heard it right here today. Schools have national youth councils. That means that school students have issues. And if you're going to say that we're going to represent young people, and we're going to say that they're old enough to understand and do CSC at that age, because we have 14-year-olds doing CSC, you're going to say that they should be given an opportunity, because you're going to question, are they too young? But the reality is that they're not, because times has changed. I've seen it here many times where we have 10-year-old advocates advocating for different issues, where they're advocating for the environment, where they're advocating for their future. So if you're going to say we're electing a youth parliamentarian to represent young people, why is that age limited to 18? Because if there is going to be elections solely for this, it's only going to be young persons being eligible to represent young people. I think that we should at least consider, I'm not saying that that's going to be the way forward, but I say that we need to at least think about it, at least ask them if they want the option to. I think the cutoff age should be 35 though. But thank you very much.
And what would be the lower cutoff age?
Oh, right, I had said 14.
14,
Yeah,
so 14 to 35.
Yes.
For those who are, because it's obviously a conversation with different ideas, for those who looked a little dismayed when Shaquani said 14, youth suffrage is real, youth suffrage is real. And as I said the other night, those who are in third form now will be able to vote in the next general election, and they are 14 years old. So you have to think about that. But the responses from the other panelists? Dante?
What mechanism? I believe, I'm going to say one word, communication. Why I say communication, for example, this has been designated as the year of youth, and there's no communication to young people and what you expect in this year. Moving on to question number 2. What should be the minimum age for a person to sit in the Senate as a youth representative? 23. We age out from the National Youth Parliament at the age 23, so we believe that if you're able to have national discussions on things affecting this country in youth parliament to 23, you should be able to progress to the Senate to have further discussion and to be able to be one of the persons making and helping pass the laws in this country. Question number...
Sorry, I'm not clear what you're saying.
It's 21. It's 21 now.
For what? You're talking about aging out, but I don't...
No, aging out from the National Youth Parliament, we age out at age 23.
Right, and therefore you're saying that...
The age for the question number 2 where it asks...
the cutoff age
the cutoff
to be
age.
considered young is 23?
No, for the...
No. This is for the question of...
He's speaking on the transition.
Right.
So he wants a system from the Barbados Youth Parliament at 23 to then transfer to the Senate, the opportunity to go to the Senate.
You could go to
But it's at 21. The age to get into the Senate or to
Right,
be
so I
elected
was
is
using
21.
23 because 21 seemed to be the problem with Mr. Khalil.
No, it was 18.
18,
They
sorry.
wanted to change
my
the...
apologies, yeah. Right, so I'm asking for it to go up to 23. As once you see mature in the National Youth Parliament, it won't really be a problem really to be considered to be able to have discussion in the Senate.
Are you saying that you want a mechanism for transitioning from the
Yes.
youth parliament to
Yes.
the national parliament?
Yes, please. No, all right. That's what I'm saying. But yes. So I'm saying yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay.
Apologies for not being as clear.
No, that's
as
okay.
possible.
Question 2 had 2 parts because it had the part where they were asking us about Tahir's perspective, where a person, the 3-person that could be selected, and then the other part about what we thought the age limit should be cut off, could start from going into Senate. So I think that's where some confusion was when a person was saying that might not be in question 2. But yeah, that was part question 2 too.
Go ahead. Continue, sorry. Question 3, how many? I agree with the idea that ambassadors put forth the National Youth Parliamentarian being elected by the groups. Should the National Youth Parliamentarian who is elected by the vote of young people? Yes. If you are going to be speaking on the views of the youth, you should be elected by those young persons. And I believe the age should be 16 to 35. I believe that that is the age for the Commonwealth, subject to correction. And I do not believe persons outside that age bracket should be allowed to vote. Why? You have your general elections, let the young people have their time to shine, let the young people have their campaign, let them put forward their policy, their manifesto to the other young people to see that this person is equipped and ready for the job as National Youth Parliamentarian in the House.
Dante, let me ask you this question, though. Those outside the age bracket, in terms of the older folk, do you think that there is something to be said that where a young person is running to represent young people, it would still be good to see where that young person can capture the attention of the older people, because at the end of the day, the younger person starts to go into a body to speak to older people who will have various ideas and views?
Yeah, but I don't think you need to vote. That's what I'm saying.
But I need you to tell me why.
Why not? Because then it becomes a general election in the sense. Like, the voice of the young electorate has gone through the door because my mommy at her age can say, no, my son ain't ready. You understand? Well, my peers believe that is the man that I want to represent me. So I believe if you are 35 and a month, your chance gone. So let's stick between 16 and 35 for the voting of the young people. You will have your chance the next 5 years when it comes from to a general election.
Tahir, before you speak, please, I'm assuming William will give you the floor next. I have a further question to ask you on your 3 senators' suggestion. 2 questions, actually. If you accept the idea of a national youth MP, would you still want to see 3 youth senators as well? That's 1. And 2, why should you have 3 youth senators for the smallest cohort of the electorate? Why should you have 3 representatives? You understand my point? Yeah, okay.
All right, just on your first point, I think the age, I'm in agreement of the age you can vote from 18. So I believe that the age should be dropped to 18 as it relates to the Senate. That's my position as it relates to the Senate, as well as the elective process. Your recommendation as it relates to the interest groups, I'm not in agreement of interest groups for the elective process. But that's why I was making the point that I didn't get my thoughts around for the Senate. I think the Senate can have focus on interest groups specifically.
But how are you defining interest
groups? That's what I'm telling you. Right, no, that's the point I was going to get to now. Because I haven't thought it through. But my line of thinking is that you have areas of national significance. Naturally, you will have specific areas that Barbados focuses on. But as I said, I don't want to speak on it publicly as yet. I will write that in. That will be my submission. Okay. That will be because I haven't thought it through fully. I was trying to get it for today, but I really haven't gotten there yet mentally. So I'll write that in to you, and we can have a conversation separate to that. But the interest groups forming within the Senate. But as it relates to the process and the system, I'll submit that. I thought your recommendation as a national youth parliamentarian is very innovative, very, very creative. But I have some questions. Would that be a part of the general election?
Yes.
Okay.
The way I vision it, yes.
Okay.
But there would be a youth campaign.
Yes.
So whoever the youth candidate is, the youth candidates are,
Yeah.
would have their own campaign.
Yes.
But it would be integrated as part of a general election campaign.
And naturally, the the youth parliamentarians' manifesto, quote unquote, will fit into the party's manifesto that they are purporting for youth.
Well, I can't say yes.
No,
I don't know what the DLP would do. No, but one would assume
Ambassador,
that
we're
if
not
a
going on the political
party-
lines.
I would assume that if a political party is putting
Yes.
up a youth candidate, then they will have considered their national youth platform
okay.
and would have specific policy
And
proposals
support
that
will
would
be given
yes.
to that youth representing the political party.
So the person would be a
Yes.
fully integrated candidate of their political party with whatever policy framework the political party then is recommending for young people.
So now this would be 31 MPs, quote unquote.
And that is what has to be thought through.
Yeah.
If we see a parliament, because our mind right now is constrained by the box.
Yeah.
The box tells you there are 30 constituencies and therefore 30 parliamentarians. If you step outside of the box, then you can create, and this is what to me is exciting about this process, that you can have a completely new platform and structure, not tied to constituencies, geographical constituencies, because clearly young people would be a constituency. That allows us to do different things and really truly enlarge the democracy by giving greater voice to different cohorts in different ways. So I'm just playing with the concept. And this is the first opportunity that I've had to speak to it publicly outside of speaking to it within the context of the commission and saying, you know, my idea is that we could consider this and to get reaction to it.
And in principle, I like the idea. I like the idea. Obviously, the system would have to be thought through and the process of it, how it's going to work in the parliamentary system. And I do get your point of what you're mentioning on us thinking in the box. But to me, I appreciate our elective process with the constituency process. I don't believe that there's a need for a change in our elective process as it relates to the constituencies and how it's currently set up. That's my belief. But I like the idea of the national youth parliamentarian being given support within the national election, but the age of voting, because systematically, 18 you can vote. If you lower it to 16, for persons just to vote on for that youth person will pose some challenges nationally, but it goes back to systems. I believe between 18 and 35. The UN, Dante mentioned Commonwealth. The UN, which we take a lot of guidance from 18 to 35 is the age of the young person.
Okay, thank you, Tahir.
Yeah.
Let me just note, I'll take off my law hat, take off the economist hat, and keep on the political science hat. You know, I've thought about this a little bit, and statistically speaking, the youth are such a large constituency that if you were doing it on statistics, they would have 2 seats, right? So that's something to consider. But in relation now to youth suffrage, so 16-year-olds being able to vote for a youth parliamentarian, one of the questions that was asked me when I finished my undergraduate dissertation was, what needs to change in terms of liberal democracy, or what is missing? And in terms of Barbados, we are missing rites of passage, right? So being able to drive is a rite of passage for many people, right? So it may be that having youth suffrage introduced for being able to elect a youth parliamentarian is another stepping stone towards full adult suffrage when you get at 18 years old. So just to think about that. Tia, do you want to go?
Ask me one other question.
Okay, Tia, go ahead.
On the Senate, I think the 3 can remain, along with the one national youth parliamentarian. So 3 within the Senate under the age of 30. So no, but 4 will be in the 4th person will sit in the lower house.
Yeah, but you would still have 4 representatives
I
overall
think,
as the smallest cohort of the electorate.
I support 3 and 1.
I support that too.
Well, the smallest cohort of the electorate is the largest cohort of the future. So,
Yeah.
you know, you think about it that way, Ambassador. But
Yeah.
Tia, you want to go ahead?
So I have, my brain is rambling right now. Okay, the first question you was talking about, how would you feel heard? I would like everyone's opinions on, we could have these platforms created that we can go and send an email, a video, and stuff like that. But my question towards that is, how is that any different from things that have been happening now? Like, how is me sending an email, let's say, to the MP? How do I know that that message has been received? There's been instances in the past where people have reached out, sent letters, communicated to the government, XYZ, this and that, and nothing has changed. What is going to be the deciding factor? What is it that sets these platforms above everything else? Like, how will we be heard? I don't think me sending an email to the minister or MP or whatever the case may be is enough.
So you want to know what mechanism you can put in place to make sure that whatever's being put forward is actually entertained and debated and
because
considered.
I feel like we've been doing that part for too many years in too many situations. I feel like something else needs to be another step needs to be taken to move forward. I feel like I should have a conversation, an actual conversation with ministers, with my MP. I feel like I need to be heard from actually having a conversation. He's sitting in front of me and he be talking and being heard, relatable, be in a setting that, makes the youth comfortable. Because I feel like we've been talking a lot about everything being in a political standpoint and everything, and we're not actually thinking big on the majority of how the youth actually communicate with each other. Like, yes, we have Instagram, Facebook, and everything, whatever the case may be. But how many of the youth are actually go on Facebook and say what they have to say to the minister and actually feel heard? Because, don't get me wrong, we're going to say what we have to say, but is it actually going to be taken into consideration? No. Like, if I post something on Instagram and I post a message on Facebook and I send it, that's what I'm trying to get to. So I am saying, like, I feel like we need to actually have more face-to-face. I don't want to say town halls or panels, because when the youth hear these words, it scares them away. Because it's coming off like, oh, we've been having a town hall and panels for years and nothing has changed, so I really want to go down the road and listen to these people. I feel like the whole, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, we need to...
Whole
like
concept?
Right, thank you. The whole concept, everything needs to be restructured in a way that it actually brings the youth forward to want to have a conversation with the MP about everything that is happening. Because as I say, we've been sending emails for years. I've been sending emails for years, making suggestions, but am I actually being really heard? So to be heard, I feel we need to actually change the whole concept of it and actually have more face-to-face interactions. I want to see maybe somebody at a football game. As I say, I keep saying football game because that's what I like to see in my community, football game. I want to see my minister at football game and he pass and ask how the day going. And I mean, like, excuse me, sir, you know that so happened, I really think about this. And, be more community, be more interactive, connect more to us in order for, like, points to get across. The age. I would say 23. That was the question with the thing, right? The Senate. Right. I would say 23 on that. The National Youth Parliament, with the age, I actually agree with everybody saying, parliamentary, with actually 18 and 35. I agree with that. And I also agree that it's for the young people. The older folks need to mind their business in this situation, point blank serious. It has nothing to do with them. They have passed this age, and the young people need to figure out what the young people need to do.
Why not 16?
We can say 16. I mean, we take, actually, Shaquani said 14, right? Because we actually take CSCs at 14, well, 13, 14, because they say at 13. So I can actually agree with that, 13, 14, because...
Yeah, I did my first CSC.
Yeah, my first CSC was at 13 years old. So if I could go and take a CSC at 13, and honestly, I've met a lot of children at the age of 13 that have a lot of ideas. They're very rebellious. They're very outspoken on what they think is going on wrong. Even some kids that I have met on the street, they're very outspoken and rebellious and say this and that. So I feel like, I actually agree with Shaquani. We could go 13, 14, because the only thing that these kids would need, obviously, is a little direction, and they'll help articulating certain points and stuff. But they have the ideas. It's their future.
The question was asked from the floor, what's behind the 13, 14? This is in relation to who would be able to vote for a youth parliamentarian.
Third question. Oh, and yeah, I agree that we do need to separate the minister of youth. That needs to be its own. Even though I don't agree that the minister should be the minister of sports, youth, and communication and community. I think it's too. That needs to be very specific. Youth, sports, community. Yes, they all can come together, but the issues that we are being presented with, like it needs to be separated. I'm sorry, and the minister of youth needs, as we all have agreed, needs to be younger, because I need the minister of youth needs to be somebody that we all can relate to. I cannot relate to a 55-year-old, 75-year-old man telling me about anything in his youth and whatever the case may be. I want to have somebody that is 35, that's 27.
Let me ask you a question, Tia. Can a 55-year-old who already went through those ages relate to you at your age?
No.
No.
Why not?
Okay. I'm sorry. I should say no, yes or no. Because I always argue this point with my grandmother a lot. She thinks that because that she grew up and she experienced everything, that she knows everything. Times are changing. Let's be realistic. The times are changing. Yes, she might have experience with this, but how it's being handled right now is not the same way. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as the old people they say, and that's what we're going through right now. That's just my point of it. I don't think that. I believe that they do have knowledge and experience, but sometimes in some situations, they don't know what they're actually talking about. Because, yeah, I think I asked the question. Your turn.
Okay. Nyanji, you ready to take the floor?
Oh, sure. I don't know, but we'll find out. Okay. So the first question, I feel like with the forums, the platforms, yes, I agree with Tia. They've been happening. I also agree with Shaquani.
It's okay.
We also need to know who is listening. And I feel like the way we can know who is listening is when we are actually deciding these policies. We hear what the youth have to say, what they have already discussed. We hear points of views from them. We hear points that have came from them from these platforms. We actually consider, or we actually try to negotiate how we can interpret this into these policies just a little bit or something. That is visible change. That is visible recognition. And to the second one, the minimum age, this is for which one?
This is for the persons in the Senate.
The Senate, I think, should be 18. Because, like he said, if you can vote, if you have the passion for this, if you know the knowledge of this, why are you supposed to wait and see where you can go from there? Why are you holding in all these ideas, these knowledge, all these things that can benefit our country? You are allowed to vote. You should be allowed to run. And for the youth one, I think for 16 to 35. And I don't think anyone outside of that should be, because if we look at Barbados' population, a large percentile of our population is seniors. So even if we have a general vote, it's morely going to be the seniors that are choosing, because their percentage outweighs ours by a lot. So it won't be a child's perspective. It won't be our perspective. It won't be our choice. Even though we have the choice to vote, it will never be ours if we are competing against a larger percentile. That's all I have to say.
So, Nyanji, just so we have it for the record, by recommending the age for being able to elect a youth parliamentarian, you agree with the idea of having a youth parliamentarian?
Yes, please.
Okay, no problem. Just by a show of hands.
Sorry, I just really wanted to say thank you very much to the entire panel, because I know that these questions really interrogated the points you had made, and equally gave you something totally new, which forced you to think on your feet. Very, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very very much.
Ambassador. Just by a show of hands, how many more people want to make presentations and ask questions? Okay, no problem. Feel free to line up. The Minister of Youth is here in the building, and he's ready to engage the young people on the panel, Mr. Charles Griffith. And thank you, Mr. Minister, for coming and engaging. And let me just
Some
say
people
that...
getting a little uneasy.
Yes,
On the panel specifically.
the members of the panel, you're free to engage the minister and really have your say. Don't be shy.
The person's wearing yellow.
Minister.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry.
First, this is the year of the youth, and I want to thank the Commission for putting this particular session together. Ms. Bell, I need to deal with some of your issues first, because based on what you're saying, I'm a father of 3 first, and you're telling me that I can't relate to my 23-year-old. The other thing is that you have persons, including me, who would have coached basketball for more than 15 years, a young group, based on what you're saying, older persons can't relate to them. Not the case. I'm not sure what is the age of your coach. A number of things, and I came this morning because an invitation was extended to me, and I felt that I had to be here as Minister of Youth, if for no other reason, to share some information as well. We have started this year a national survey that was supposed to gather information from persons from 16 to 29. Our cutoff age at the Ministry for Youth is 29. We had to suspend the survey, but it is coming again. One of the queries was also in relation to hearing young people. In November this year, we will have a national consultation that is focused basically on hearing young people and their issues. Another question that came was in relation to young people not being accessible to MPs. Every Wednesday in my constituency, and I'm sure that this is not Wednesday, but across the board, there's a clinic, we call it clinic, where young persons are able to come and sit right in front of me and have discussions about issues that, yes ma'am.
I'm so sorry. Is your constituency St. John?
Yes, it is.
I have never heard about this, and I'm a citizen of St. John. I've never heard of it. I've never heard anyone speak of it.
That is so unfortunate. But every single Wednesday from 5 o'clock till the last person walked through the door at Clifton Hall, there's a clinic. So you can call 571-5945 and make your appointment. And that is the case for all of my colleagues, that we have what we call a clinic evening where we see constituents to hear their concerns, and this is in addition to walking the ground at that level. Now, government this year we have put particular focus on youth because this year was designated Year of the Youth. Yesterday, over 500 young persons were involved in that national parade that started at Kensington and climaxed right here in Queen's Park. To date, we have started a national mentorship program where young persons who are going through different stresses and want someone to guide them, we have started with 50 mentors and 50 mentees. And that is a program that is up and running. In addition to that, we have this year a national hotline that provide an opportunity for any of you on the panel who is seeing a youngster who is in distress and needs some assistance. You can call the hotline. We have MOUs with different agencies to provide counseling for those young persons. We have taken a program, we took a program into the primary school setting.
Sorry, Minister, can you just give the number for the record so we can notate any persons online?
That is 839-HELP. Yeah, that is the hotline.
Wait, Minister, most young people got new technology phones, so they don't know what numbers correlate with help.
Sorry. Those 4 numbers I would have to
4357. Yeah, I was looking for it too, Minister.
Yeah, because, you know when we take back to days.
So,
839.
839-4357. HELP. Yeah, 4357.
24/7, someone will be there to answer. We also started a program in the primary school called Moving On, which would provide an opportunity for persons to go into the Class 4 to deal with programs such as, areas such as conflict resolution, anger management, leadership, money management, and civics that would allow those youngsters who are transitioning from the Class 4 into secondary school with an opportunity to be in a better position to handle what is going to come at them in relation to the secondary school. So rest assured that government is paying particular attention, not only this year, but to all of the needs that are impacting our young people. Ms. Bell, you are in athletics. We had a situation where there were 2 persons on island that were charging fees to prepare persons for the SAT program. This year, from January, that program is now free to anyone with the skill sets, academics and track, who want to have an opportunity to study in the States. We are making those SAT tuition free to every single athlete on island. So the youth voice is important to government, and through my ministry, we're doing every single thing that is necessary to ensure that we have best results. You mentioned, I'm coming to you, you mentioned a separation. We have the Community Development Department that is responsible for things at community level. The sports is being taken care of by the National Sports Council. So I'm saying to you that, yes, in an ideal world, you might want the separation, but at this particular point in time, not only because I'm the minister, but I'm suggesting to you that government is doing what it is supposed to do in relation to identifying the needs and supporting all of our young people on island.
I have one quick question.
Yes,
Well, I have 2, sorry. Everything you have mentioned, right? Why is it that no one knows?
The truth is, I have no idea why it is not. We have a PR section, we have
The
a
PR
website.
section needs to be revised.
We have a website that all of this information is
Actually,
on that
no, because
website.
I actually went on the internet doing some research to come here, and I went on Google and I typed in Ministry of Youth and everything like that, and I could not. The page that I found said "phone not found." Everything that I clicked on said "phone not found."
You have to look for Division of Youth.
I want to respectfully suggest to you that maybe you plugged in something wrong, but we have an active, very, very active.
Right now.
It's Div Youth 246, I think. Yeah.
But what this is saying is that it is too hard.
Hard to find information.
It is too hard.
It shouldn't be that hard.
I take note of that.
Thank you.
I have.
You're finished?
Sorry, my next question was, what do you think about the youth parliamentarian? About the youth parliamentarian idea that
Absolutely fantastic idea. I think that it is something that will give young person an additional voice. I fully support it. I believe it is something that should be put in place. Fully support it.
So how would you go about putting it in place?
I think the suggestion was made.
Do you agree with it? Just making sure.
We have the different youth organizations that can probably come together and make a decision. But I think that then, or maybe as mentioned, you have independence. So somebody who believes that I don't want to be attached to B or D, I want to stand alone, they can go that route. But I fully support it.
Shaquana, you want to say something?
Yes, I had a couple of questions. The program that you have in primary school, you need to start it younger because we don't want persons to start thinking about financial literacy only when they're going into class 4. I mean, when they're going into secondary school, because we want all young persons to know that it is important to save money because we're categorizing children, but we gotta stop that. The younger they are, the more impressionable they are. So they're experiencing a lot of hardship out there, and life is rough on the outside of school. So if we are putting these programs to only target class 4s, we need to drop the level, even if you go as low as class 2 and class 1. But it is class 4 is not a wide enough spread out. The program where persons are allowed to mentee and be a mentor, I think that is a great start for an initiative. And I would like to see and hear the outcome of it. Who are the mentors? How did you select the persons being mentee? Like, if I know a person who I want to be a part of this program, how do I sign up for it? Because a lot of persons want people to mentor them, but they don't know how to get it or where to get it from. The hotline that you mentioned today, I think that is an excellent addition, but my issue with that is that I don't feel you have enough hotlines, because unless it is a WhatsApp number, most young people don't have money on their phone. Like, they do not.
Provisions are made for that.
Okay, that is excellent, because that was one of my concerns. If I'm a young person home, am I going to call this number because my phone, I ain't got no landline at home. So the reality is that I can't even make this call, and we have so many young people who need help. Right now, we got some young boys who live out by me who can't get jobs because they're between the age of 16 and 17. And at that age, they cannot get a TAMIS number. I've called TAMIS constantly trying to get this issue addressed, and right now they don't have a solution for it because the required age is 18, but they're out of school, they don't want to go back to school, they want a job, and persons are turning them down because they can't get a TAMIS number. That is something that the Minister of Youth need to address, because if you're going to say that we're looking for the youth and we're making provisions for them, we need to make getting jobs easier for them and recognize that persons between the age of 16 and 17 are people too.
Look, let me say this, right? And I'm not trying to. There's nothing that anybody on this panel can share today in terms of needs for young people that are not being addressed by this government. And I want to really, really drive that home. Let me explain. The ministry would have had pop-ups where we're doing exactly what you're asking for in terms of the TAMIS number. The young lady from St. John said that she was not aware that my office is open. Any day you walk into the office, as a young person, a TAMIS number will be developed for you by the constituency assistant. Guaranteed.
Why do I have to go to your office?
Hold a second.
So because it's, it's on parliamentary reform, but we don't want to go too much into youth affairs, but parliamentary reform. But I know it's important. So
I will shut down. This is not political. I was giving you an example, but I also said to you that the ministry is also doing it, which is not political. So we're doing what is necessary to ensure that our young people are taken care of at every single step of the way.
Oh no, I tell you misunderstood me. I didn't mean about going to your office itself. I mean about TAMIS itself. Why have TAMIS not rectified the issue yet? Because I've called them repeatedly through the year.
I understand the issue, Shakwani, I understand. But we're going to have to just kind of cut that there, Minister, if you just want some...
I just wanted to share some information about what is happening with the ministry and respond to some of the concerns that the panelists would have identified. Okay. I think I've done that.
All right, thank you. But I'm thinking you're going to have another youth town hall for your ministry.
For sure,
Minister.
we need a part two.
The next person up, I recognize the face. I don't really know the name, but I'm sure I'm seeing you all over TikTok. So you might want to introduce yourself.
The name is Fabian McDowell. So good afternoon to the panel.
Good afternoon.
I'll start by saying in primary school, they used to call me Batman because of these ears. And I felt very attacked by Mr. Harvey D today. Because I'm 36 years old. So today I found out from the panel that I'm no longer a youth.
Shoot.
And youth issues are none of my business. But on a serious note, I do a lot of speaking to young people, speaking about youth issues. I tell people I left school at 15. 0 CSCs. I said the only certificate I had was my birth certificate. And one of the issues that I had, and this was discovered much later on in life, was the issue of ADHD, right? And to a lesser extent, dyslexia. So I would have done a lot of tests earlier in my childhood, well, just trying to figure out why I was not learning, why is he not paying attention in class. Every report would have said not good enough, not good enough, not good enough, right? And the conclusion was that Fabian is not interested in school. Fabian is not interested in learning. Incorrect. It was just that the school system that was in place was not set up for me to excel at the time. So one of the things that I want to see change going forward, I know the Prime Minister would have mentioned it, was early childhood testing for things like ADHD, so we can put systems in place to help those students excel. They're going to be restless in class, they're going to seem not interested, but I don't think people are generally not interested in learning. They are.
So let me ask you a question. In relation to Parliament and its relationship with the ministries, do you think, because there was a recommendation earlier by Mr. Paris about legislative committees, do you think there needs to be a committee of Parliament on education, for example, that will be able to supervise the implementation of policy that you're recommending?
Yes, I do.
Okay. In relation then to even the funding for various things to do with the youth and Parliament, et cetera, you think that committees need to have a role in that, in terms of supervising the spending and the proposals for spending on the various programs that would concern the youth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, no problem. And in relation to engaging the youth, do you think that situations like this where basically you have commissions coming out to speak to the youth need to be, well, in that case it would be more like committees of Parliament need to go into the community and engage with the youth?
Yeah, they need to go into the communities and engage with the youth, and there needs to be persons on those committees that would have experienced some of the things that the youth are experiencing, and be able to, as Tia was saying, but I'm not young anymore, it was told, but people that would be able to connect with them on a personal level, not too far removed from where they are at that particular junction.
Are you a foundation person too?
No.
Okay, good.
They shut my school down. But I will say that because of that experience, I went through most of my life feeling like I shouldn't have a voice, or feeling like I was not intelligent enough to speak. It's only after the diagnosis, speaking with the psychologist, she asked me to do some exercises, and like, Fabian, what are the things that you're good at? I just spoke a word now. So she asked me to write a poem about the experiences that I had and stuff like that. And so that's why I speak about now to young people in terms of finding purpose. What are you good at? What are you passionate about? How can we use the things that you're good at and the things that you're passionate about to solve a problem? And then how can you get paid for it?
So let me just ask you this then. Every year, the government has to go to Parliament to approve funds to spend on various things. Now, in the estimates year on year, the education and youth-related things take up around 15% of the budget. In your opinion, do you think the money is impacting where it's supposed to be targeting? If not, how do you think Parliament will be able to help make sure that happens?
Do I think the money is impacting where it's supposed to be targeting? From what I can see on the ground, it doesn't seem that way.
What are you seeing on the ground that tells you no?
So look at the situation with the young people. Look at the block culture. I don't think young people feel that they can. I feel like if you're not an academic, if you're not excelling in academics, you're made to feel like you better go do a construction job. Not that there's anything wrong with construction, but it's like you're not going to be a doctor, you're not going to be a lawyer, you're not going to be an accountant. We don't really have room for you, right? The what's called the skills training is there, but
it's not a lot of options.
Okay, so the last question, because we have a few more people, is in terms of the proposition for a youth parliamentarian, do you agree with having a youth representative elected to Parliament?
I do, 100%.
Okay. And what should be the voting range in age, in terms of, is it 18 to 30, 18 to 35, 16?
I will lower the age to 16. And I will cut off the age at 36.
36? I owe you.
Okay, thank you.
For sure.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
That was really good.
Ma'am?
But you still will be eligible. You're 36 already.
You never know.
Good, but I'm not sure if it's
No, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Wendy Story. I know some of you on the panel, Tahir and Tia. I am very passionate, so if anything I say, do not take it in any way. I just want to say to our MPs in-house, anything that we've said before is not an attack on the government or anything you're doing. We appreciate all the good work you're doing thus far, but there are concerns of many young people, many older people than us, that do believe that some persons in our youth are not being reached. And I speak on experiences I've seen. Let's look in town. Let's reflect on the Orleans that does not have a community center as yet. This is 2023. We can go outside and we can see 3-year-olds walking. There are children who go to primary school who are getting the free education, but what are we doing to further depth community development? There are programs that are reaching some, but I think that community development should not be a political campaign. It should be adapted in our constitution.
Oh,
I'm
constitution,
getting a little
okay.
frightened with the words. Reason being, because it's not a political campaign. It is the future of our society. What are Barbadians? Who are we? I'm a history student, and I think that I'm going to intertwine it now. When we talk about community development, we need to look at our young people, teach them refinement. Many persons they're not exposed to the refinement, and when we come into the jobs, the employer says, well, they don't know how to express themselves. But you have to look back at what they're being exposed to or what they're being taught. I work in the hotel sector, and there's simple things that people can't express themselves. They don't know how to speak properly. But you know what they're saying? Yes, I'm getting my free education, but I'm not exposed to it. No one is teaching me. When I say we need to, in terms of community development, there are groups and organizations that have done such a little impact, but they need help. Dance in Africa, Israel Level, those are cultural hubs. The Landship, all of those need spaces that are funded. The government can't do everything. If you can give every community a strong cultural hub, you would see how our society would take a change. Every Barbadian is a historian. They're out there interacting with our tourists. And we don't want them to share pieces of our history and the incorrect history or express it in the wrong way. We want them to truly pass it over in the correct way. We are all saying that we have a tourism product, but are we really looking at it? All of this comes from the community development. So when you have that boy that's a porter in the restaurant trying to do his best, but he can't express himself, or maybe he's not exposed to Barbadian history in school, that's not fully taught about Barbadian true history, business and BIM by Henderson Carter. Those are things that we don't learn in secondary school or in primary school. We know November is Independence Day. History is about Columbus that come to get the Caribbean. But no, we don't know about the true Black Caribbean people that have done a great impact. And I think that, again, I say this is no attack on any government institution. I think that community development should be a part of every political campaign. It's indebted in our society, and it is responsible for the growing and continuation of a Barbadian society. And how we can
Excuse me 1 minute. When you say community development should be part of a political campaign, what do you mean exactly, and what then will that do in terms of being able to make sure it happens from the parliamentary level?
In terms of having on the parliamentary level, instead of being that the Bs say, well, this year we're going to build 6 community centers, or the Ds say the next 5 years that they're going to build a community center. Every government that is a part of their manifesto. Everybody, well, not manifesto, but it's a mandate. Community development should always be. So like how we have free education and free healthcare, those are strong components that always exist. Community development should be there.
But do you want this mandate to be how moral, or do you want it to be legislated?
I want it to be legislated so that it doesn't go through the cracks. We have community centers. I can tell you that there's a community center that is open every morning and closes in the evening. The lady cleans it, but nothing happens. Nothing goes on. And then when I said that to someone that sits in a space, I was given the idea that you're not, because I said I go around to community centers and show you that they're not open. But I'm not a police officer. That was the response I
So
got.
who is to police this? If we have this mandate, is it then that Parliament
It's-
polices this?
Parliament, so somebody should, community
Who is this
development is,
somebody?
I think, and I could stand corrected, there in our ministry now, community development is there. But it is not there in the level that I am suggesting that it should be. It should be, because as Shaquani mentioned, we need to drop the age from class 4, because again, as I mentioned, children leave school on a day and they go.
What do you mean drop the age from
Shaquani mentioned that we should drop the age on the MP for youth. He would have mentioned that some program he has is offering from class 4 to a particular age. Instead, so we're catering to certain ages and we're forgetting. So, and again, on mentioning, I'm putting different ideas. I know it's a lot. Block culture is a big issue in Barbados. It has been from the 1970s. And we're looking at and we're wondering why crime is happening. It's because these little children are outside and they're being exposed, and we're not saving the little children. This is why community development is important. And we must also give praises to those who do their community development with different hubs, and they try. There are people that try, and the government can't do it all. How about, years ago we had groups of women, we can look back in history, women that were married and didn't have children that would go and do a little knitting class and this and that. How about the government teaming up with communities and looking for persons within those communities to help? Because we're not giving back. We're all taking, but we're not always giving back as well.
So in relation to that point, because we have a few more people.
I know.
Some people believe that there's a lack of women in Parliament. Do you think that do you think there's a lack of women in Parliament? And two, if you think there's a lack of women in Parliament, do you think that leads to many of the ills that you're speaking about today?
There is a lack of women in Parliament.
And creativity.
But I don't think that is responsible for the reasons that we have our issues, because they like to say that women are responsible for certain things. I think it's a maternal and paternal issue. I don't feel that if we see more women, maybe if we see more women, that is when things will change. But should we wait on when more women are allowed in Parliament? Well, it's not allowed, when more women emerge to the top.
What do you think about quotas for women in Parliament?
I don't think that is even.
No, what do you think about quotas, as in mandating a certain percentage of Parliament be women?
I think that they should have more women in Parliament. It should be 50-50.
But do you think that should be mandatory?
It should be.
Why do you think it should be mandatory?
Because, again, I know that many men would say that they've used the argument before that women are very emotional and that how we are rational.
But it's needed, though. The emotion is needed. That's what's missing.
And I think that the strong women and Barbadian women are needed. I think that is important that we always have that balance. It's a societal balance that's always there. Always needs a man and a woman to make a perfect household. In order to have a perfect running country, I think we do need the quota of 50 to 50% of women and men.
And what would happen if, last question for you, what would happen if you do not have enough women to come forward? Or you think they for sure would have enough women?
We have enough women. Right now, the most educated, most women, and I think that that's another reason more women are being educated than young men in Barbados right now. And Tia and Tahir can probably say this. There are more women that we know have been to the University of the West Indies than our men. We see many of our men on the block and outside.
So after the Lestervon town hall, some people commented that one of the reasons women are not engaging in electoral politics or elective politics is because they want to shield their children and their families from the things that may be said about them on the campaign trail. So let's get very real. Do you think that's true or not?
No, I think people have lost confidence in politics. It has nothing to do with what everybody will know your secrets is Barbados. But I think that people have lost confidence in politics. That opinion could be debated. That's just my personal opinion. A lot of people have lost confidence in the things that politicians do say or what the government has done. And that's a biased opinion because the government has done great things for us. And then we do have concerns in other ways that the government may be lacking. And again, I said the government can't do all.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up, I also want to feed back to the members of the community online that it's natural that you're going to get youth affairs issues with youth and Parliament. And to the extent that Parliament pays for every program, public service that engages the youth, it is pertinent to our remit, especially the fact that part of our remit is citizen engagement and community engagement in relation to Parliament. So everything that was said today is relevant, so don't you worry. Can you just say your name and then get to your question?
Good day, everyone. My name is Alexander Enmore, and I am a education researcher for the Barbados National Council. Today, my question
Barbados
is
National
Council.
National Council or Youth Council?
Youth Council.
Oh, student council.
Just
Okay.
Student Council.
Okay,
sorry.
thank you.
So today, my question is how much is needed? In terms of mentorship programs, what resources do we need in order to incorporate youth into the different sectors, other than money? It is said that we do not have much experience. We do not have much qualifications to be a part of these sectors. If this is the case, how will we go about changing this? In terms of the sectors, are there individuals willing to build a connection with the youth, take up a mentorship role? My fellow youth parliamentarian, he spoke about the shadowing of ministers, and Nyanji also alluded to what opportunities are there for youth outside of youth parliament. Yeah, that's my question.
The question is what other opportunities there are outside of youth parliament?
Yes, and what resources will we also need in order to have more mentorship programs for youth?
Well, actually, can you tell us what you actually want to see? Because we're here to really inquire into what the youth want to see for Barbados and the parliamentary system.
All right, so I will share a little about myself. I am a fire cadet for the Barbados Fire Service, and I am at the Fire Academy often. What I would like from the Ministry of Home Affairs, but he already does a great job, but we would like more funding. I feel that's something as well.
More fun?
More funding,
money.
yes. But
Funding.
yes,
Oh.
please. But my question is, what do we need outside of money in order to help our youth?
What do you need outside of funding?
We need mentorship.
And what else?
Mentorship, I believe that's the main point.
I think he wanted to know where he can get additional mentorship opportunities. Suppose I wanted to be, I don't know, I want to follow in your footsteps. Where I can find somebody, can we get a system where persons could register and say, I would like to give back to society and I want to become a mentor, and I could come on that database and look up and see if there's somebody that could possibly be my mentor. Is that something is that what you're meaning? Right.
Yes, please.
Okay, so let me ask you just two questions, right? Have you ever thought about being a parliamentarian?
I am actually a youth parliamentarian. That's
No,
what
I mean,
said.
have you thought about being in the national parliament?
In the national parliament? Often.
Often?
Yes, please.
No, wait.
Especially in the Ministry of Agriculture, because I've had the opportunity to be a part of another mentorship program, which ICA does with the Ministry of Agriculture in Greenland, St. Andrew.
So what do you think about the idea of having a youth parliamentarian elected to parliament?
I believe that that would be a great thing, but also would we also have the opportunity for young youth who are not in youth parliament to also have a place?
Well, this would be a young person who runs for office. It doesn't have to be from the youth parliament, but a young person who runs for office.
I believe that is a great idea.
And what is the minimum age that a person should be able to vote for that youth parliamentarian? And the maximum age?
The maximum age, I would say 25.
25. And minimum age?
Minimum age 16. I believe you guys are speaking about. I believe that's a great age.
Well, I want to hear what you think, not what people were saying. So do you think it should be 16?
Yes, I actually believe it could even be 15. Yeah.
Okay, and why 25?
Why 25? Because I believe a lot of persons tend to age out. Despite the UN saying that 25 is, they said 25 is within youth, right? Youth goes up to what age?
35.
35? Those within secondary school and also tertiary institutions, I believe that, they should vote.
Okay, and have you ever engaged a constituency clinic? Have you ever gone and met your MP, anything like that?
A few elections ago, yes, I actually went and interacted with them.
Okay, and last thing then, do you see yourself in the future actually participating, however you want to participate, in elective politics?
I believe that everyone has a place in politics. especially youth, because we are who have to vote as well. We are also part of the procedure. And as you guys said, some people would try to shield their children, but we are preparing our children for the future. So despite the age now is 18 to vote, right? I believe that children should still be exposed to it and be around it so that they would know, which is why civics is also being taught in schools.
And do you think that the average person in Barbados should be able to elect the president of Barbados?
Yes, I believe so.
Why?
Because it's our president, not true?
Yeah, it's true. So then you disagree with the present system of electing the
Actually, I
president?
don't disagree. I believe that we just got a president and the procedure which was done in order to have our president, I believe in it. But as time goes, things will change as well.
So as time
So
goes...
as it is currently, I accept it.
But as time goes, and when should the change be made?
Next election.
Next election. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I'm Cyprian Latouche. I want to start by asking a question. You all been talking about the youth getting the chance to vote for this youth people. Does it also mean that the youth can vote for in the general election for another representative too? In short, do you all get 2 votes? I'm just checking.
No.
So the people from
Yes
16 to
and
35
no.
can only vote for,
The young person.
but they then can't vote for the other representative?
Well, the idea, first of all, is not set in stone. It was a
No,
question.
but I know that's what I'm asking.
Right, so
but
that's
you've
why
answered.
That's why I'm responding to you. So it
Yeah.
wasn't set in stone. It was a question about how the youth panelists feel about having a youth parliamentarian and who could vote, etc. So, but to answer your question, there's nothing wrong with having what is essentially multiple positions on a ticket and people being able to vote for each position on that ticket, as happens in every other place.
Well, I don't mind.
No, I understand. So my position is that anybody between the age of 18 and 35 on their ballot would have the youth person and vote within their constituency for the person that is in the constituency. So the ballot would show, in my suggestion, the constituency representative. So if you voted in St. John, Minister Griffith and whoever else, and then as long as you're within the age of 18 and 35, the young persons that are being represented.
Okay, so I'm just going technicalities, but I just remember, so when I present my ID, and it then check and say, well, okay, 18 to 35, fine, okay, you can get
So
this
for
thing.
example,
But
at UE, just let me give you a very practical example. At UE, we would have served on the Guild, right? So there's a specific ballot which is set for each faculty. So for example, I was in the faculty of sport. I can't vote for the faculty of law representative, or I can't vote for the faculty of social sciences representative. So my ballot is specific. So I would show my ID when I go in to vote, and they would say, well, all right, you have to get the sports faculty ballot. And there's different stuff there, and the officer, the election officer, the returning officer, whoever's there, would then provide that ballot for me.
See, I understand that. I have no problem with
Yeah,
that.
no.
Right?
I just explain it and then giving a practical example.
No, but I'm just saying that, well, one is a national election, so therefore some people will be able to vote for 2 people, and some people will only vote for 1. So anyhow, let's start this here. There's some of you all there that I'm probably twice as old, quite literally. And there are gentlemen, at least 2 of them are here, who are far senior to me. So the first thing that I would look at, and I'm asking you all because I'm having kind of a dialogue with you all first. Do you think there's anything to learn from old people?
Yes.
Okay. What?
In what situation?
Well,
Just a quick idea of one thing. What?
Well, what
Let's
I
just keep this very short.
No, I know. I'm doing this. I'm going to get my point.
I know you want to be systematic, but time is going, and we want to get to the actual pertinent
I
suggestions.
understand.
Yeah?
But this is going to be pertinent. Just tell me what. Just Shakurani.
Well, what I usually say is nothing is ever original. The idea has to come from somebody. That means that at some point in time, the idea was generated. So it could be from somebody 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So that being said, everybody does history and studies history. That means that we all at some point learn from someone who is older than us.
Okay. I've submitted a written presentation. I hope you all get the opportunity to look at it, and it is for the commission to look at as well, obviously, because it's submitted to them. So therefore, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to first address you all, and then also address the aspect of the commission. And I'm going to give you, I'm not insulting anybody, I'm giving you my personal opinions, okay? So please take them in the manner in which I'm going to give you.
Once you speed it up a little bit.
All right. Y'all are young. Okay? There is nothing that y'all have said or done that a lot of old people have not said and done already, or not that I have experienced already. The only thing constant in life is change. So therefore, everything which y'all have said here now has been said, I have heard said when I was young, and I have had those feelings as well. Don't get into the details of the fact that, oh, well, you don't have WhatsApp, or you communicate this way or whatever. There are lots of things that change all the time. Like there was a time when some person was riding a horse, and that person was young, and the young people came and they started driving cars. And the transition from there was the horse to the car, and old people were saying, oh God, we could never drive cars. And young people are saying, y'all are old, y'all can't think outside the box. This is the same thing that's going to happen, that's happening now. And what's going to happen 10 years from now, 50 years from now, is that people are going to look back at it. When you get to this age, you're going to look back the same way and say, this gulf between young people that exists. The same issues which y'all are having with government in terms of feeling not being heard. That is the exact same issue that everybody is also having with government as the old people. Okay, like me. The problem of running the country right now, as well, one of the big challenges that the country is having is the gulf between government and the government not listening to the people in general.
Right, so the question, because people online are going to start asking me when you're going to get to the actual suggestions that you want to make. So what I am going to do is I'm going to ask you, because we get what the problem is. What we want to know is what are your suggestions for it. Okay? So can you just give some of your suggestions?
Sorry, please. Just give me a chance, okay? I understand.
I'm giving you a chance. We also have to be guided by me, okay?
All right, I understand. But the point in the matter is that if you want to talk about change and looking at things differently, then you cannot start thinking and relating and presenting things the exact same way that they've been presented before. This whole sort of panel, right, this presentation sort of format that we continue to have is the same thing that always happens again and again and again. And the challenge that the young people saying, oh, we can't be heard, and then we are asking for these, it's not just that young people, but Barbadians are entitled. We're totally entitled.
I understand that.
Just a second.
No, but I am just asking you to actually make your recommendations for what it is that you want to see, because right now you're just deconstructing the system. Tell us.
Because I'm trying to say that in order.
Let me speak. Let me speak. Because then we don't want it to get a little heated, because the most heat will come from me. So what I am saying, right, is for you to put forward your propositions, your suggestions, because we have another person behind you. It's getting late, so can you just put them forward? Because I know you have a lot to say. You've put a written recommendation. We are going to read it. Please just put what you want to see before us now.
I want to see y'all approaching things differently. I want to see the conversations being different. I want to see that when you tell the minister that he wants, that y'all are not being able, y'all don't have the platforms. The government has not put in place the proper platforms and proper structures that allow everybody to be heard. I heard about the lady came and spoke about the community centers. And I'm saying, why don't we have a community center in every parish that is linked to, that the representative's office is linked to, that the representative is there at that community center? Tahir spoke about the fact that the ministers and the volume of work that they come into a community and they're supposed to fix this. And I want to say that is not the job of the representative. And this is one of the problems we have. We believe that there's the job of the representative. The member of parliament is there to be the representative of the people.
One of the members on the panel wants to engage you on that point.
Go ahead.
My question to you is the member of parliament or the parliamentary representative not elected to serve his constituency?
Yes, there are.
But then you're going back on your point.
No, just a second. Tahir said that they were there to fix the problems. No.
But
okay?
that's what you're elected to do.
Hold, no, just a second. Again, here we were arguing. I'm just giving my viewpoint, okay? Listen first. It's not that they're there to fix the problem. They're there to make sure that a problem gets fixed. They're there to hear from the people what the problems are. They're then supposed to go into government and speak and address in government to the various structures that are there that are supposed to then go into the communities and fix those issues. So when you go into parliament, you're supposed to then communicate and say, okay, in my community, my people have said, XYZ, we need this road fix. So therefore, then they can speak to the roadworks, and they can then fix it. But we have this thing where...
We get that point.
Right.
So you've been speaking at length now. I'm just going to... It's the truth.
Okay,
you've been speaking, you've been speaking at length, so don't worry about it. Because I don't want people to think that I'm being unfair to you, but you have been speaking at length. So I'm just going to ask you that you've given us the written submissions. I'm going to ask you just 2 questions, because I've been asking everybody those questions. Just want for the record, right? What are your thoughts on the idea of the youth parliamentarian? And what do you think the age range should be for youth being able to vote for a youth parliamentarian?
I don't know if I am so much in favor of a youth parliamentarian. If a shadow parliament of youth, I have no problem with that there. A representative of youth sitting in a Senate capacity, I have no problem with that there, to be totally honest. But in terms of having a youth parliamentarian, I don't care about the age in that respect. I care about what a person brings to discussion. That to me is the most vital thing. And if you have the fact that a youth can go in, that you can go into parliament, let's say at 20, it is what you bring to the table. Let me hear the ideas that you have. Let me hear those things, as opposed to saying, well, a person is a youth and they're coming in based on that basis of their age. Always is about, to me, what do you bring to the table in the conversation.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Again, I'm not being unfair to you. It's just time and management. All right, I think this is our last presentation. All right, 2 more. Oh, come on. Yes, please name for the record and go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. That's
Good
clear?
afternoon. Yeah.
My name is Enya Greenwich.
Just come a little bit closer to the mic.
Better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Enya Greenwich, and I am just responding to some of the things that I heard. I am in favor of the youth parliamentarian, and I think that there should be more than one. At first, I was thinking 4, but that might seem a bit excessive. I'm thinking 2 might be a better number because you did make the point, Dr. Chandler, that statistically, I guess based on the numbers, you should have 2 people representing. And I also think that given the youth and the inexperience of the young person, it could come off as being overwhelming, being in a position. And also, you don't want to be outnumbered when things are being put forward. So I think having 2 parliamentarians would be good to create that balance. In terms of how you will select them, when you actually have the ballot paper before you, instead of selecting 1 person, you could select 2. I think that would be simpler than having all the southern constituencies and you choose your representative from there, and then the northern constituencies and you choose your representative from there. I think that's an option, but it sounds complicated, so it might be easier to just select 2 people on a single ballot. So that was the main thing, but definitely to have more than 1 youth parliamentarian. I think 2 is a good number, and having the 1 in the Senate is okay with me. I do think that having the Parliamentary Reform Commission come into schools is urgent, because I'm seeing the large numbers, well, relatively large numbers of young people who are leaving Barbados because they truly do not see how they, not just how they can contribute, but just the kind of life that they would live. And if we have so many young people leaving, that is obviously a very serious issue, because you have large numbers. I mean, colleagues of mine who are still within the category of youth, my current students who are looking to leave as soon as they finish school. It's quite alarming for me. I am a teacher, and it alarms me tremendously. So I think it is urgent that young people see the opportunity that was mentioned before, the opportunity that is available to them, that they can contribute in a meaningful way. And I agree that we have ample platforms. There are numerous youth organizations, but the issue seems to be being heard. In other words, you're saying what you're saying, you have the opportunity to say it, but nothing is happening. So people want to see action, the actionable results coming out of what is being put forward. It was mentioned earlier, the issue about having a quota of women in Parliament. I think it is unnecessary, because if young people are engaged at an early age, I think the young females will step up and will want to be a part of it. So I think having persons 16 to 35 vote for those youth parliamentarians would be one way to get those young women involved at an early age. Right, so having the Parliamentary Reform Committee come into schools. Civics is taught in 1st and 2nd form, but as students get older, the timetable becomes more cramped, it becomes heavier. So I would say if the PRC are coming in, focus on 5th and 6th form students, and right, that way that you start to engage them before they actually get out into the world of work. And those are my main points. I just want to finish off by saying that wherever there are gaps that exist in the knowledge of the young people, where Parliament and other things are concerned, I think it does lay squarely at the feet of older people, because sometimes they can come across, not that they all are, they're not, but they can come across as being very critical and close-minded. And there's a need for them to be generally more open-minded to what has to be put forward. So there needs to be that balance of the experience and youth. And it makes me think, if I may, refer to Avatar, both The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. You see how young people went forward and made a change. And there's no limit to what people can do, especially where there's a will, there's a way. So definitely in terms of having the youth, having them see themselves being represented, so as to curb the exodus of young people that I'm seeing. And those are my main points. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ma'am, you're the last person up.
That's okay. Hello, good day to everyone. I'm Carolyn Edwards. Well, what I want to say, it's really great having this open forum of young positive youngsters, major citizens speak, hear y'all speak, and open to the public. I'm really happy to be able to attend, hear the young people speak. Y'all spoken so positively and know how to character your own path. And that's really great. I'm looking forward to attend more open forums with young positive takers speak so I can attend. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. We've now come to the end. I'm going to ask each panelist to give a quick, short wrap-up, and then Commissioner Beckles is going to speak. Nyanji, go ahead.
Okay, so my wrap-up is, while with all the things that we've heard, with all the things that we've changed, we've all seen that each generation of us think that there should be change in our year. That is one thing that we have constantly seen. And we have constantly said that, well, with the gentleman, everyone has spoken about this, but there is actually being progress. The fact that we are here today, it is progress. Just because there's not change last time, just because a few years there weren't change, there is going to be change if you continue to speak about it. And that's why youth will always speak about it.
I just want to say thank you for having the opportunity of being here. My conclusion is that, you know, I don't want anything that we said out here to be talk offensive. We are just trying to implement change and have a better future for us and for the generations to come. And I look forward to, you know, everybody working together to make this change.
I just want to take the time to thank the Commission for, first of all, engaging us as youth. As Ambassador mentioned, that this is one of the first and of a commission engaging the youth specifically. So I must commend the Commission and take this time to also thank for engaging me as well. It was certainly a pleasure to sit here this morning alongside my fellow panelists, and I look forward to the continued engagements and action moving forward as we seek to all make Barbados a better place. And I will hold the table accountable that if the Commission agrees to go into the schools, we will be on the front line with y'all going into the schools. So thank you so very much.
I just want to say thank you again for the invitation to be on the panel, and thank you for the opportunity. What I want you to leave with here today is that the youth was given an opportunity to speak and bring our issues to the front. We want you to listen to what we would have said, and please, if you can't implement, at least find ways to help us navigate forward of how we can take these words and make them become action, because we're willing to come to the table and help, but we need to be given the opportunity to actually help. Thank you very much.
On behalf of myself and the members of the National Youth Parliament, we want to thank the Commission for allowing us to be here at this long table discussion forum on youth and parliamentary reform. And we are looking forward to seeing the great works of this Commission and the continued great works from the panelists. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is just left for me to give a short vote of thanks. I want to thank, first of all, the chairman of the Parliamentary Reform Commission, Sir Richard Cheltenham, for his opening remarks. I also want to thank the panelists, the presenters that we had this morning and into this afternoon. I want to thank Tia Adena Bell, Nyanji Bradshaw, Dante Harvey, Shaquani Hunt, Tahir Bubulia, and also our moderator, Dr. William Chandler Jr., who did an excellent job. I have to recognize the management and the staff of the Daphne Joseph-Hackett Theatre, who would have allowed us to use their facilities. The members, staff, management of oversight for the audio, video, and facilitating the live stream. For you, the audience, who would have asked questions, made comments, kept this morning and afternoon session interactive. I thank you for your presence. Thank you for the presence of all those who have joined with us online. We are grateful for your support. We're grateful for your attendance. The Honorable Charles Griffith, Minister of Youth, Sports, and Community Development, thank you for your presence, sir, and for accepting our invitation. Members of the Barbados Police Force who may be outside securing us here in this facility, thank you very much. Members of the staff of the Parliament, Barbados Parliament, who have been assisting the Parliamentary Reform Commission, and coordinating these town halls from its inception. We're grateful for your support. And for those who would have done the lunch, provided those refreshments for us, I want to say a great thank you. And I want to wish all of you, if I forgot anyone, I say thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to wish all of you a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Refreshments are being served afterwards. I bid you adieu. Bye-bye.
Are we not getting up?